Two among the 100 schools to pilot the limited face-to-face learning modality are from schools division office of Masbate City. One is Sinalongan Elementary School, another is Gutusan Elementary School. Allow us to share with you the preparation done by the two schools and how the first 2 days of the school children went.
Everyone's glad and to raise safety, the vision of a smarter on top. You're always one to in sports and any competition. Victory no longer an option. Onward we go with our vision. Enhance our nest, our dedication. So our youth will see the glory that God has given them to be. Safety, the vision of a smarter on top. They're always words of warning.
Nandito din yung lahat ng tao sa kailangan sa eskwelahan para maayos ang pagdating ng mga bata. And I think they are more than ready.
We go with our vision, enhance our nest, our dedication, emotion, everything is set in place. With his smart heads, devotion, everyone's glad and to raise safety, the vision of a smarter on top. They're always one to in sports and any competition. Victory no longer an option. Onward we go with our vision. Enhance our nest, our dedication. So our youth will see the glory that God has given them to be. Safety, the vision of a smarter on top. They're always words of warning. In sports and any competition. Victory no longer an option. Onward we go with our vision. Enhance our nest, our dedication.
Yes, we successfully made it. SDO Masbate City is indeed grateful and honored to be part of this noble endeavor. With this pilot implementation at our division, we know exactly what to do when this modality is finally implemented in the rest of the schools.
Even before the idea nung limited face-to-face na inauthorize ng ating presidente at ng ating secretary ng DepEd, ang lugar na ito talagang nangungulit na. Itong eskwela na nangungulit na sa akin na payagan sila. Kaya kung hindi tayo pwedeng nang wala tayong permiso from the President of the Philippines. So kaya nung na-allow na ito na, nagkaroon na sila dito ng limited face-to-face.
Sa barangay, nakipag-usap kami muna, nakipag-dialogue kami kasi sila yung pinakaano dito sa lokal na sila yung magkukontrol o titigin sa amin na pwedeng makapagpigil sa amin may makita silang mga batang pumasok. So, nakipag-dialogue kami sa barangay and unanimously was approved by the council. So, after noon, yung mga magulang, dialogue naman sa mga magulang, nakipag-usap kami. At tuwang-tuwa nga sila na isinulong na namin yung limited face-to-face at kinonsider namin. So, 100% ng magulang ay pumayag.
Sa totoo lang po, talagang napakahirap na mag-module ang mga bata sa bahay. Kaya talagang halos lahat kami ng mga magulang talagang gustong-gustong magkaroon ng face-to-face. Dahil hindi naman lahat ng magulang alam yung mga nasa module, lalo't hindi naman kami lahat nakapagtapos ng pag-aaral. Kaya talagang grabe yung pagpursige namin na makapasok ang mga bata sa paaralan.
Po ay hindi na katulad nung natural na ginagawa nung face-to-face ang pagtuturo. Ang gagawin namin ngayon, pag nandiyan na yung mga bata, kumbaga ibibigay na namin lahat sa kanila. Nandiyan yung TV, nandiyan yung lahat ng mga pwede namin ibigay sa mga bata. Kumbaga, wala nang interaksyon na katulad ng ginagawa. Kumbaga, pagdating ng bata, ituturo na namin, ibibigay na namin sa kanila kung anong dapat nilang gawin. Tapos, ang pag-check, iikot na lang yung teacher, pero hindi kami hahawak sa mga bata o sa kanilang ginagawa. Titingnan namin kung nakuha ng bata o hindi yung pinapagawa namin. Pero as much as possible, hindi na pupunta sa pisara, wala na kami tatawagin ng mga bata na usual na ginagawa dati. Ngayon, nagagawin na namin, kumbaga yung teacher, ibibigay na sa kanila kung ano yung dapat nilang matutunan.
Included po din doon sa resolusyon namin sa pagsusuporta namin dito sa pag-pilot schooling ng elementary school na in case po na magkakaroon po ng hindi naman natin hinihingi na magkaroon ng COVID case po ang barangay, automatic po magiging suspended po yung klase sa pagkakataong ngayon. At saka yun din po yung guidelines yung binigay sa amin na orientation din nung nakaraan with the principal na ganun din yung gagawin ng DepEd in case po na magkaroon ng case yung barangay.
Ito po ang kauna-unahan at nag-iisa pa lang natin na eskwelahan na kasama po sa mga nagpa-pilot ng limited face-to-face. Salamat po sa inyong pag-witness ng opening na ito at proud po tayo na nakaagapay po ang ating DepEd Sorsogon City sa programang ito na magsisikap na makabalik sa classroom ng ating mga kabataan.
Magandang araw, Pilipinas! Narito po tayong muli sa isa na namang panibagong edisyon ng ating EduAKSYON, Aksyon at Solusyon para sa Edukasyon, the DepEd Virtual Press Conference. Binabati ko po lahat ng ating mga mag-aaral, lahat po ng ating mga learners, ating mga teachers mula sa Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao na nanonood sa atin live via DepEd Philippines Facebook page. It's been a week nga po since nagkaroon po tayo, sinimulan natin ang ating implementation of the pilot face-to-face classes. At kahapon, kakatapos lang ng first day of classes on our selected private schools. Kaya kamusta kaya ang ating mga learners, pati na rin ang ating mga teachers? For sure ay naging meaningful, naging napaka-memorable, kumbaga, ng ating mga nakaraang araw dahil after being under the remote learning setup for more than a year, ay ngayon po nakabalik na ang ating mga students sa mga schools at paaralan. Kaya let's get some updates in a bit. At syempre, hindi po magiging buo o kompleto ang ating press conference kung hindi po natin kasama ang ating mga kaibigan mula sa media at press na makikilahok sa ating talakayan sa araw na ito. At ngayong umaga ay naka-broadcast din po tayo at mapapanood ng live sa mga social media accounts at local channels ng ating mga media partners nationwide. Kasama na po dyan ang CLTV 36 ng Region 3, DWRB 103.9 News FM Radio Bulacan. Andyan din po ang Romblon Cable Mimaropa Region, Kabangkalan Community Antenna TV ng Kabangkalan City sa Region 6, Siargao TV ng Caraga Region, The Post at ang Rappler. Makakapsama at makakapanayam din natin ang ilan sa mga opisyal ng kagawaran na patuloy pa rin pong nakatutok sa pagpapatupad ng ating face-to-face classes. Let me acknowledge their presence, starting of course with our ina ng kagawaran, DepEd Secretary Leonor Magtoles Briones. Makakasama rin po natin sina Undersecretary Annalyn Sevilla, Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio, Undersecretary Rev C. Escobedo, Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma, Director Jocelyn Andaya at Director Roger Masapol. At hindi rin po magpapahuli from our field offices. Nandito din, makakasama po natin ang ating mga regional directors mula sa Regions 5, 6, 8, and 9. Andito po sina RD Gilbert Sadsad, RD Ramir Oitico, RD Evelyn Fetalvero, at RD Ruth Fuentes. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ayan, masigasig nga pong binisita at patuloy pa rin ang monitoring ng ating mga opisyal ng DepEd sa mga kalahok na paaralan upang maisiguro po na nasusunod ang ating stringent health and safety protocols para sa kaligtasan ng lahat. Nagkakaisa talaga ang buong bansa upang ipahayag ang suporta sa muling pagbubukas ng mga eskwelahan. Kaya ipinakita po ng bawat sektor, kasama na po dyan ang ating mga LGUs and even private sectors, na mahalaga po talaga ang pagpapatuloy ng isang ligtas na balik eskwela may pandemya man. Kaya November 15, naging makasaysayan po talaga yung araw na yan dahil muli nating nasilayan ang mga mag-aaral na pumasok sa eskwelahan. Katunayan, bago nga tayo formal na nagsimula sa ating programa sa araw na ito, ay napanood po natin ang audio-visual presentations. Mula po yan sa SDO Masbate City at SDO Sorsogon City tungkol sa kanilang week number 1 ng pilot face-to-face classes. At ngayon naman ay ating alamin ang iba pang kaganapan sa Bicol Region tungkol naman sa week 1 ng face-to-face classes sa pamamagitan po ng isang video presentation ng SDO Ligao City. Panoorin po natin ito.
The birth of a global health, economic, and educational crisis also gave birth to a new breed of crippling fear to everyone. Perhaps we can say that the education sector is one of those societal aspects primarily affected and distraught by the unseen monster. Through the joint proposal of Department of Education and Department of Health for the conduct of pilot face-to-face classes, guided by the joint memorandum circular signed by the two agencies, 9 schools come from Bicol Region. Out of these 9, 5 were chosen from the Schools Division Office of Ligao City, namely Balanak Elementary School, Chongson Elementary School, Tandarura Elementary School, Tupas Elementary School, and Malaama Elementary School, Bagakay Extension. In the spirit of quality education and lifelong learning, allow us to walk you through the journey of SDO Ligao City's pilot face-to-face classes implementation. These schools have been selected after a careful and selective process, supervised by the operational framework for the resumption of face-to-face classes adopted from the UNESCO-UNICEF World Bank Framework for Reopening Schools and DepEd Shared Responsibility Principle. In preparation for school reopening, SDO Ligao City, school administration, local government units, parents, and stakeholders have set up the physical structures, wash facilities and supplies, personal protective equipment, health and safety protocols, learning materials, class programs, and human resource requirements needed. These schools have actively involved the community in the school reopening process to shape the perceptions of risks and effectively respond to the health crisis through localized efforts. Classrooms were carefully arranged to ensure safety of learners from COVID-19 transmission by following the prescribed classroom layout. Physical arrangement of chairs and other furniture inside the classrooms were also positioned to ensure proper physical distancing. Strategic locations were taken in consideration in putting up the availability of proper sanitation and hygiene facilities, adequate and safe water supply, hand washing station or sink, antibacterial soap or 70% isopropyl or ethyl alcohol. In addition to this, child-friendly information and education campaign or IEC materials on hygiene practices and respiratory etiquette were posted in common areas. All these efforts led to a successful reopening of the identified schools last November 15, a monumental date for Philippine education history, more so for SDO Ligao City. The participating schools determined the most appropriate learning delivery modality to be adopted in combination with the face-to-face modality and the schedule of classes, ensuring that the learning materials needed for the blended learning are sufficient. Teachers maximized the use of all available resource materials and optimized the time for learners' engagement, collaboration, and socialization while observing the health and safety protocols. Parents, guardians, or any care providers of learners on taking care of mental health and creating a positive environment were thoroughly engaged to meet the basic needs of learners in preparing them to this new experience. In the case of Nanay Marife, she faithfully trusts the process and framework of the face-to-face classes.
Mo po kami maturan po siyang marebagan ng maestra mo. Maturan siyang maray. Dali na maray kami madipay sila hanggang sa baloy. Kapag sa baloy, ito mabakang po ikan gurang sa maestra. Mas titugod na kayo maestra kasi sa gurang. Kaya naugma po kami maray. Face-to-face sila mga.
Most importantly, students who are at the heart of the teaching and learning process are nothing short but ecstatic and positive of seeing their classmates and teachers, participating in an academic discussion, and sharing those eager and yearned smiles and laughs.
Kumusta naman yung pagmamodule mo?
Okay naman ma'am, pero medyo nahihirapan.
So, nahihirapan ka sa pagsagot ng module. So,
I'm live.
Sa tingin mo ba, mas
Windows
maganda
G.
yung magkaroon tayo ng limited face-to-face kaysa sa pag-module?
Apo.
So, pabor ka na magkaroon tayo ng
face-to-face class.
Okay, so
And from here, Ligao City continues its journey towards building effective schools for tomorrow with a heart. Healthy and safe learning spaces, efficient and ethical standards, accountability, resourcefulness, and transparency. From this, we move from 5 implementing schools to the whole school community of SDO Ligao.
Congratulations at maraming salamat for your audio-visual presentation. Galing po yan sa Regional Office ng Region 5 SDO Ligao City. Maraming salamat po. At ngayon naman, upang bigyan na tayo ng latest updates at upang mabigyan ng mga konkretong sagot ang ating mga katanungan ukol sa ating pilot implementation of limited face-to-face classes sa nakaraang linggo, andito po ngayon ang ating Assistant Secretary for Field Operations and National Academy of Sports, Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma. Good morning, ASEC Malcolm.
Good morning, Nina, at magandang umaga sa lahat ng ating mga taga-subaybay dito sa ating lingguhang pulong balitaan dito sa EduAKSYON. Magandang umaga rin sa ating mga media partners, Ma'am Nina, at sa ating po mga kasamahan mula po sa Executive Committee at Management Committee. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. So, Nina, ang ating pong babahagi ngayon ay dalawang bahagi po ito. Una ay tulad po nung naipangako natin nung nakaraang pulong balitaan natin, magbigay po tayo ng kabuuang mga bilang in terms of the number of learners and teachers who are participating in our pilot school. So, just to affirm, Nina, okay ba yung audio ko? Okay naman?
Yes, ASEC, we can hear you loud and clear po.
Thank you. So, gusto ko lang i-affirm, Director Nina, na ating pong numero. So, sa ngayon po ay meron pa rin po tayong 100 pampublikong paaralan na bahagi nitong ating pilot study. At kahapon nga, ay nagsimula na ho yung ating mga private schools. At mamaya po ay ibabahagi sa atin ni Director Joyce Sandaya yung mga naging kaganapan sa unang araw ng pagsisimula ng pilot study itong mga pampribadong paaralan. So ulitin ko, 100 pampublikong paaralan pa din yung ating mga kalahok dito sa ating pilot study. So, okay. Kung ready na yung ating slide, paki-on screen na nga, please. Secretary, at paki-on screen na yung ating slide. Okay, katulad ng binanggit ko, unahin muna natin yung pagbibigay impormasyon doon sa bilang. Ilan ba yung mga mag-aaral na kasali o sumali dito sa ating pilot face-to-face at ilan yung ating mga kawani at guro na kabahagi nito. Sige. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So, batay po sa datos na nakalap natin mula po sa mga rehiyon na kabilang dito sa ating pilot study, mayroon po tayong kabuuang bilang na 7,324 na mga mag-aaral. So, ito po ay simula po doon sa kinder to grade 3 at yung pong ating grade 11 and 12. Next slide, please. So ito po yung ito yung bilang ng mga enrollees natin, no, dito po sa ating ano. Pero ang nakalahok lang po natin dito basically ay yung grade 1 to 3. Next slide please. Okay, batay po sa ating nakalap na datos, meron din po tayong ilang mga mag-aaral mula po sa SPED, ALS at meron din pong nabilang doon sa ating madrasa, no. Next slide please. So ito po yung pagbabahagi, no, doon sa mga babae at lalaking mag-aaral na kalahok dito sa ating pilot face-to-face. Next slide please. So hindi ko na po isa-isahin yung slide, no, kung saan bawat paaralan ay nakatala, no, yung ilang mag-aaral yung nandyan sa kanila. Sige, paki-move na yung ating slide please. Sige. So dumako naman po tayo doon sa mga bilang ng mga guro o yung mga kawani, no, na lumalahok dito sa ating pilot implementation. Next slide please. So may kabuuan po tayong bilang na isang teaching and non-teaching personnel na kasalukuyan po ay umaagapay, no, sa ating pagpapatupad nitong pilot face-to-face. Next slide please. So hindi ko na rin po isa-isahin yung slides, no, na kung saan nakatala yung bawat isa. So yan po yung bilang, kabuuang bilang, no, ng mga learners and teachers and non-teaching staff who are participating, no, or part of this pilot face-to-face. Gusto ko lamang pong banggitin na ito pong paki-mute lang po yung from Ormoc City. Okay, salamat. So yung pong bilang na binahagi natin ay maaari po magbago yan, no, sa mga darating na araw. Depende po sa sitwasyon. At yung pong mga nakalap nating datos ay atin pong kasalukuyang binavalidate din, no, batay po doon sa ating learner information system at doon po sa ating plantilla items ng mga paaralan na kalahok dito sa ating pilot face-to-face. Ulitin ko po, ito po ay sa pampublikong paaralan lamang. At wala pa ho yung datos, no, na mula naman po sa mga pampribadong paaralan. Okay, can we now go to the next part of the presentation? Director Nina, alam ko maraming nag-aabang nito, no? Yung ano ba ang naging takbo, no, ng ating unang linggo, no, ng pagpapatupad ng ating pilot limited face-to-face classes, no, doon sa 100 pampublikong paaralan. So batay po sa nakalap na mga datos at impormasyon ng ating pong planning service, at ito po ang kabuuan, no, ng kanila pong mga nakalap na datos at impormasyon. At nagpapakita ng ating pong mga ng ating assessment, no, for the first week of the implementation of the pilot face-to-face. Sige, next slide please. So ang layunin po ng ating pagkalap ng datos at impormasyon ay unang-una makakuha po tayo ng mga idea, insights, no, at makita natin ano ba ang aktwal sitwasyon na nagaganap. So upang makakala po tayo ng mga impormasyon, no, ideya, at makita natin at matugunan kung ano yung mga maaaring pagbabago o adjustment na kailangan nating gawin habang patuloy nating sinasagawa itong pilot face-to-face. At pangatlo, makita rin po natin ano pa ba ang kailangang suporta, no, o ayuda na pwede nating maibigay dito sa ating mga paaralan. Maaari magmula po dito sa ating tanggapang sentral, sa tanggapan ng ating mga rehiyon, division offices, at syempre malaking bagay po rito yung may aambag ng ating pong mga local government units, ating pong mga health officials, at syempre yung ating pong komunidad. Particular na po yung ating mga magulang. Next slide please. So, sa kabuuan, doon po sa 100 pampublikong paaralan, 56 na po dito ang nakakapag-submit, no, ang kanilang weekly school report. At inaasahan po natin na yung iba hong paaralan ay makapag-submit na rin, no, within the day. Pero masasabi naman ho natin na 56 out of the 100, so more than 50% na yung ating yung mga paaralan na nakapag-submit ng kanilang weekly assessment report. Next slide, please. So, isa sa mga tinututukan natin, no, in terms of assessment ay gaano ba kasiguro na nasusunod at natutugunan at natutupad yung ating mga guidelines, no, in terms of the safety of our learners and our teachers and other personnel in the participating pilot schools. Next slide, please. So ito po yung pagbabahagi, no, doon po sa naipakita natin na datos kanina sa bilang ng mga mag-aaral, bagamat hindi po ito yung kabuuan, no, dahil 56 pa lang po yung mga paaralan na nakapag-submit ng kanilang datos. So ito pong kulay asul, pinakamalaking bahagi po ng mga nagpa-participate nating mag-aaral ay yung pong nasa kinder to grade 3, no. At sinusundan po ito na nasa 25%, yun naman pong senior high school natin, that is the grade 11 and grade 12. At may mga paaralan po, maliit na bahagi po ay may mga paaralan na pareho, no? Meron silang K-3 at meron din po silang senior high school. Next slide please. So ito po yung pagbabahagi ng ating mga datos, no, gender, no. Okay, next slide please. Okay, batay po sa datos na ito, no, makikita po natin na wala po sa mga paaralan na nagsumite ng kanilang assessment report ang nakaabot o nagkaroon ng 100% attendance, no. At mamaya makikita natin ano po ba yung mga naging dahilan kung bakit may mga mag-aaral po na hindi naka-attend, no, dito sa mga araw nitong nakaraang linggo. Next slide please. At ito po yung mga natukoy na dahilan batay po sa ating batay po sa mga isinumiting impormasyon ng ating mga participating schools, no? Ito po yung mga dahilan kung bakit. So 18 po ang nagtala na kaya hindi sila nakapasok ay meron po silang sakit, no. Ito ay maaring na sakit, no, at siguro inaasahan natin na ito ay normal sapagkat alam naman po natin na pag sumasapit na yung Disyembre ay nag-iiba ang ating panahon kaya nagiging uso, no, itong ganitong sakit, lalong-lalo na po yung ubot sipon, lalong-lalo na po sa mga bata. May 7 po na nagsabi na ang dahilan kung bakit sila naging absent ay hindi po sila nakarating o mahirap marating yung kanilang mga paaralan, which is very understandable because we saw in the previous videos that most of the schools are located in remote areas, no. So there's really a possibility na may mga mag-aaral o mga magulang na hindi maihahatid o madadala yung kanilang mga anak sa mga paaralan nila. Mayroon pong mga nagsabi, 11 po ito, na kailangan nilang tugunan yung kanilang mga obligasyon sa pamilya, no? Errands, at maaring ito po ay sa bahagi ng mga magulang, no? Lalong-lalo na po sa kinder natin, na hindi po nadala yung kanilang mga anak sa paaralan because they have to attend, no, to these obligations and to take care of family errands. Alam natin na itong panahon na ito, maulan po sa bahagi ng Mindanao, kaya at may mga pagbaha, no, na nagaganap din dahil sa mga pag-ulan na ito. Kaya 3 po ang hindi nakarating dahil po sa yung pag-ulan, no, o pagbaha. Meron po nagsabi na 11 po sila na hindi sila handa, no, to attend the class. So siguro ito po yung isa sa mga hihimayin natin kung bakit hindi sila handa sa pagpasok. So maaaring ito ay may kinalaman sa kanilang kahandaan psychologically na umattend, no, itong mga face-to-face classes natin. Tandaan po natin na marami po sa atin, no, halos lahat ng ating kinder to grade 1 ay first time na a-attend dito sa ating mga paaralan, no. Bagamat sila ay naka-enroll, hindi pa ho sila nakatungtong sa paaralan simula po na nagkaroon tayo ng COVID lockdowns. Next slide please. So ito po yung iba pang mga dahilan, no. Ilan-ilan sa mga dahilan kung bakit hindi sila nakapasok nitong nakaraang linggo. So katulad po na nabanggit ko, siguro malaking adjustment sa bahagi ng ating mga maliliit na mag-aaral, lalo na po yung mga kinder, dahil ito po ang unang pagkakataon na mawawalay sila, no, sa pamilya, sa kanilang mga magulang, at sa loob ng 3 oras hanggang 5 oras o 4 na oras, sila po ay mamamalagi kasama ang kanilang teacher. So this is the first time for them. So we expect that there will be some separation anxieties that will happen among them. Meron din po nagbanggit na kaya sila hindi nakapasok kasi kailangan po nilang umattend sa itong registration ng national ID natin, na para sa kanila ay mahalaga din, no? Lalong-lalo na po yung kanilang mga kapamilya, mga magulang. Dahil po sa karamihan ng mga paaralan ay nandoon sa mga malalayong lugar, so it will take time, no, bago sila makarating doon sa mga kabayanan na kung saan nandito yung mga lugar na pwede silang magparehistro. Meron din po nagbanggit na isa po sa mga dahilan kung bakit o ilan sa mga dahilan kung bakit hindi nakapasok ang mga bata ay meron po mga kailangang tugunang mga problema sa pamilya, katulad po ng pagpanaw ng kanilang kapamilya, at yung iba naman ho ay kailangang bumisita, no, o pagbisita ng ilang po mga kaanak. Meron pong nagbanggit na kaya hindi sila nakapasok o hindi nila nahatid yung kanilang mga anak sa paaralan dahil nakaschedule na sila, no. Sakit ko dahil sa ulan sa mga karamihan sa mga lugar na kung saan nandito ang ating mga paaralan ay yung hirap, no, ng daanan o daan patungo sa kanilang mga paaralan, lalo na kung ito po ay next slide please. So subukan po nating banghayin, no, yung atin pong dahilan kung bakit hindi sila nakapasok, lalo na po yung nagsabi na sila po ay may sakit. So katulad po na nabanggit ko, ang pinakamarami po sa mga kasong ito ay yung ubot sipon, no, ng mga bata, maliliit na mag-aaral, at ilan po ay nilagnat, no. At mabuti naman ho dahil ibig po sabihin nito malinaw sa ating pong mga magulang na kapag ang mga bata ay nakaranas ng ganitong simptomas, no, ubot sipon, lagnat, pananakit ng lalamunan, hindi na ho nila pinapapasok sa paaralan. So I think this is one of the reasons or one of the things that we should highlight, no, in terms of the orientation, no, and the knowledge of our parents regarding the symptoms, no. At sa bahay pa lang ay natitignan na ng mga magulang itong mga simptomas na ito. Sa kabutihang palad po ay sa ating po mga personnel, isa lang po yung nagtala, no, sa 56 schools nag-submit ng kanilang datos, isa lang po yung personnel, no? Hindi lang ho nabanggit kung teaching to o non-teaching personnel ang inubot sipon, no? At isa po ang sakita, isa po ang may lagnat, no? So siguro nakita ho nila ito gamit yung kanilang thermal scanner, no? Next slide, please. Okay. So ito po yung siguro pinakamahalagang slide, no, dito sa ating presentasyon. Na sa unang linggo po ng ating pagpapatupad ng limited pilot, limited face-to-face, ay wala po tayong naitalang kaso ng COVID, no, sa mga lugar na ito. Maliban lang po, siyempre yung unang bago nagsimula yung unang araw, yung nasa Zambales, pero lahat po sila ay negative na, no, doon sa confirmatory test na isinagawa matapos po silang magpositibo doon sa antigen testing. So ulitin ko po, sa unang linggo ng ating pagpapatilang impormasyon ay wala po tayong naitalang kaso ng COVID-19. Next slide, please. Okay. So tingnan po natin, no, batay po sa mga naging impormasyon ng mga paaralan, ano pa ho ba yung mga ibang hamon, no, na kanilang kinaharap sa unang linggo. Tingnan po natin to. Sapagkat inaasahan po namin na ang maaring maging tanong ng ating pong mga kasamahan sa media, ano po ba yung mga good points and bad points, no, based on our experience. So we will also try to share with you the information that probably would need, no, our attention and respond accordingly to these challenges. So bagamat ito ay nagbigay, no, ng karagdagang pondo, no, ito po yung 100,000 kada eskwelahan na lalahok dito sa pilot school, at dagdag pa dito yung kanilang MOE, no, na pwedeng gamitin upang ipambili, no, nitong mga tinatawag na health essential o mga gamit para ho masiguro na masunod yung ating mga health and safety protocols. Mayroon pa rin no nagsabi na kulang, no? Kulang pa yung pondo nila. So ito po yung isang gusto nating tingnan, no, sa ambang paaralan ito, at ano yung talagang aktual na sitwasyon itong paaralan na ito, kung bakit sinasabi na sila ay may kakulangan pa. At nang sa gayon, tingnan natin, no, kung paano natin tutugunan itong kakulangan na ito. Ito na po yung yung aktual na obserbasyon ng lalong-lalo na ng ating mga guro at ng ating pong mga school administrators, no, na kalahok dito sa ating pilot face-to-face. So isa po sa mga pangunahing obserbasyon na naitala po natin, no, dito sa ating first week, no, ay yung talagang hirap, no, yung ating mga kindergarten learners na isuot yung kanilang maskara sa mahabang panahon. So maya't maya ay inaalis ng ating mga maliliit na mag-aaral. And well, this is expected probably because talagang hirap, hindi sila sanay, no, at isa ito sa mga bagay na gusto nating talagang ma-integrate, no, sa ating face-to-face learning, na masanay at maunawaan ng ating mga maliliit na mag-aaral kung bakit kailangan na palaging suot yung kanilang mga face mask. Kapansin-pansin din daw na sa labas ng paaralan, bagamat yung mga kawani natin at yung mga mag-aaral ay nakasuot ng face mask, ay meron pong mga tao sa labas ng paaralan na hindi naka-face mask, no, at gusto nating panawagan, no, na sa ating pong mga katuwang, lalo na po sa local government unit, na siguruhin, no, na yung pong mga tao sa paligid ng ating paaralan ay makitang nakasuot ng kanilang mga face mask, hindi lamang po para doon sa kaligtasan nila, hindi lang po sa kanilang kapakanan, kundi sana maging ehemplo, no, yung ating mga nakatatanda sa ating mga maliliit, no, na mga mag-aaral na nakikita sila na palaging suot yung kanilang face mask. Meron din pong mga pagkakataon na yung mga bumibisita, no, sa loob ng paaralan o pumapasok, maaring ito ay maghahatid o magsusundo o merong kailangang kausapin, ay hindi dumadaan doon sa kanilang itinalagang visitors login area, no? Pagkat kasama ho ito doon sa kanilang protocol na lahat po ng mga papasok sa loob ng paaralan ay dapat magtala, no, magpatala. Ito po ay bahagi ng kanilang safety protocol upang nang sa ganon matiyak na ito po mga papasok na ito ay walang simptomas at makukuha, no, yung basic information. In case there will be a transmission in the school, gagamitin po itong visitors logbook, no, para po doon sa contact tracing. Mayroon din pong nagsabi na nakaobserba nung hindi tamang pagtatapon ng waste materials, no? Maaring ito yung face mask, no, or gloves na ginagamit nila. So ito po yung isang bagay na titingnan natin kasama po at in coordination with our Bureau of Learner Support Services, no, yung ating health unit, kung paano ba natin matitiyak na yung mga gagamitin na mga waste materials na ito, no, face mask, gloves, no, o ano pa, ay maitatapon ng tama. Tulad po ng palagi na nating pinag-uusapan, no, isa po sa talagang inaasahan natin yung mga mag-aaral natin, lalong-lalo na po yung mga maliliit na mga bata, ay minsan nakakalimutan talaga nila, no, yung distancing. Gaya po ng sinabi natin, dito po papasok yung role ng ating mga guro na continuously magpaalala, no, sa ating mga mag-aaral at sa iba pa na talagang yung social distancing or physical distancing ang pinakamahalagang bagay, no, para masiguro na walang mahahawa o magkakaroon ng hawahan dito po sa ating mga mag-aaral at iba pang kalahok dito sa ating pilot face-to-face. Ito po, no, katulad po ng nabanggit natin, first time po ng mga bata na bumalik sa school o matungtong sa school, first time po nilang makasalamuha yung kanilang mga kaklase, no? Ngayon lang po sila makaka-interact with their teachers. So talaga pong hindi maiwasan na ang ating pong mga pupils ay hindi talaga mapapanatili, no, sa upuan lamang. So, talagang tatayo sila, maglalakad, maglalaro. At ito po yung isang bagay na talagang tignan natin kung paano natin matutugunan na hindi naman siguro na talagang sa loob ng 3 oras ay nakaupo lang itong mga mag-aaral na ito. Pero makaisip tayo ng mga paraan kung paano natin sila mapapanatili, no, na nakaupo, and at the same time kung sila ay kailangang tumayo ay makapanatili pa rin yung ating physical distancing. So siguro dito papasok yung mga activities, no? Ano ba yung mga activities na kailangan ng ating mga mag-aaral upang masiguro na hindi naman sila sa loob ng 3 hanggang 5 oras ay nakaupo lamang. Next slide please. So, nakita din na meron pa hong mga magulang, no, ang hindi vaccinated. Kinakala po natin yung datos na ito sapagkat tayo po sa ating pakikipag-ugnayan sa Department of Health, gusto nating makita, no, yung profile ng household vaccination sapagkat kung meron pang mga ganito, mga magulang o kasambahay o kasamahan sa bahay, kamag-anak, lalong-lalo na po yung pamilya ng mga bata na hindi pa ho kwalipikadong bakunahan, no? So ito yung 12 years old pababa, no, sa Pascale. Isa rin po sa nakitang challenge, no, ng ating mga school
ASEC Malcolm? And parang naputol po ata si ASEC Malcolm. I think he lost his connection. ASEC Malcolm, are you still there? And Director Roger, would you like to give some inputs na din po while we wait for ASEC Malcolm? Director Roger, you're on mute.
Yeah, I can continue the presentation, Director
Thank you,
Nina.
Director Roger. Maraming salamat po.
Yeah, so while waiting for ASIC Malcolm, nawalan siya ng connection. So just to continue, no, yung pinapakita sa slide na to, ito yung iba pang mga challenges na naranasan at kailangan ma-resolve ng mga schools, like yung sa campus traffic, kailangan talaga mayroong ma-safeguard yung entrance and exit points ng school sa tulong po ng ating mga kasama sa barangay at yung ating mga partners na tumutulong sa atin para ma-safeguard yung ating traffic, lalo na doon sa mga schools, no. At yung iba, yung concern nila is yung class size, yung learners behavior na nabanggit na ni ASIC Malcolm, na medyo makukulit yung mga chikiting. And then yung maturity doon sa pagsunod doon sa mga instruction, at saka yung limitation ng space layout and equipment. Kasi sa DepEd po, mayroon po tayong mga old building, old classroom, na iisa lang po yung entrance. Yung mga modern school classroom kasi natin, dalawa na yung entrance and exit. So medyo kailangan pang rendahan yung ating mga kabataan sa pagsunod dito sa ating directional signages para lang maging maayos yung pagpasok at paglabas ng ating mga kabataan. Next slide. So in terms of teaching and learning, so yung pinakita natin kanina yung safe operation sa yung health and safety. Dito naman, ano yung mga naging experience ng ating mga schools sa pag-implement yung pagtuturo na, kasi 'di ba yung next slide, yung ating pilot, dalawang aspeto po ang tinitingnan natin dito. Number 1 ay maprotektahan ang mga kalahok sa ating face-to-face sa school against COVID-19, and at the same time allow our learners to learn better than they are learning in the distance learning. So next slide. So yung mga challenges na na-encounter, based po sa feedback nitong 56 schools na nakapag-submit ng kanilang weekly report, medyo nakulangan yung mga teachers doon sa sa time na ating nasa design ng ating implementation ng face-to-face, no? Nakulangan sila. Ibig sabihin yung 3 hours for kinder parang kulang sa kanila to clarify the lesson. So yung mga follow-up siguro after the lesson, kailangan pa ng time ng mga teachers. Siguro ito magiging bahagi ito ng ating mga rekomendasyon kapag nag-submit na po tayo ng report sa ating Pangulo, yung mga improvement na gagawin natin sa expansion. So marami rin po nagsabi na learners cannot clearly see what is written on the board due to the physical distancing. So dahil malalayo yung mayroong distancing yung mga bata, kailangan malayo sa bawat isa, 1 to 2 meters apart. Medyo challenge yung mga bata na makita kung ano nakasulat doon sa board na sinusulat ng kanilang teachers. And then learners cannot clearly hear what the teacher is saying because of the face mask ito parang hindi niya kaagad, kumbaga affected kasi yung pagsasalita ng teacher kapag naka-on yung naka-mask siya. So may mga bata na medyo challenge sila na intindihin yung sinasabi ng teacher, kasi minsan kahit hindi mo naririnig yung sinasabi ng teacher, basta nakikita mo yung kanyang labi, yung kanyang bibig, at nababasa mo na sa galaw pala ng kanyang bibig. So dahil naka-mask siya, medyo affected yung pagsasalita ng teacher, na-challenge yung mga estudyante na maintindihan. And then do not have enough learning materials. Siguro sa first week lang siguro ito maranasan, kasi ang ating design is textbook naman ang ating gagamitin. At yung iba, pwedeng supplemental yung SLM at iba pa mga supplementary learning materials. So ito, I guess by the second week, ito ay ma-address na po ito ng ating mga paaralan. Learners are not yet ready for face-to-face learning. Ito yung banggit kanina ni Asik Malcolm na dahil yung kinder at grade 1 ngayon, first time nilang umapak sa classroom or sa school kasi naka-distance sila for 2 years. So talagang hindi pa nila naranasan kung paano mag-behave sa loob ng paaralan. Kaya medyo kailangan talagang tukan ng maigi ng mga advisor nila para masana yung bata kasi 'di ba yung mga kinder nga unang hatid mo pa lang sa school ayaw nang bumitaw sa nanay, naiyak na. Lalo na ngayon na mayroong restrictions, naka-face mask, tapos may mga may mga barriers. Yan, next slide. So other challenges, difficulty of talking due to face mask and face shield. Some learners were back to basic, teaching them how to read and write. And then learners hardly finished the activities given by the teachers for the day, no? So mayroon pa talagang kumbaga yung first week of nagtatantyahan pa yung teacher sa yung learner sa pag-deliver ng lesson in a situation na maraming restrictions natin. So next. So ito yung frequency, yung mga challenges na limited time para ma-address yung mga concerns. Mayroon pong 17 na teachers na nagsabi na yun ang kanilang nakitang room for improvement. And then limited teaching and learning resources, 5 po ang nagsabi out of more than 1,000 teachers. So ibig sabihin ko, konti lang naman yung, very few lang yung teachers na nakaranas ng kakulangan ng teaching resources or learning resources. Unreadiness, mayroon pong mga 6 na teacher na nagsabi na may mga estudyante na tingin nila hindi pa ready for the face-to-face. And then multiple attention to both learners and in the face-to-face and the modular learning. Mayroon pong 18 teachers na nagsabi na ito yung kanilang naranasang mga challenges. Next slide. So other challenges, ito nga nabanggit na to kanina, learning gaps in reading and writing. Kasi during the distance learning for almost 2 years, no, kulang sa board work, 'di ba? Maganda sana sa mga bata na nagsusulat sila sa board, no. Ngayon at binabalik po natin 'yan sa ating mga pilot school, kaya nagkakaroon ng konting challenge yung mga teachers sa pagtuturo ng pagbabasa at pagsusulat ng ating mga nasa kinder to grade 3. Behavioral issues of learners since they did not come to school for almost 2 years. So ito yung kaninang nabanggit ni Asik Malcolm na parang hindi pa nila alam gaano kung ano yung magiging behavior nila sa school. Kasi first time nila na makaapak sa school, especially yung kinder and grade 1. Next slide. So school community coordination. Siguro ito na yung last aspect na titingnan natin. Next. Kung nandiyan na si Asik nandiyan ba director ni na si Asik Malcolm?
Parang hindi ko pa nakikita, Director Roger.
Wala pa. Sige, ituloy ko na lang.
Continue. Yes po. Salamat po. Thank you.
So, referral and response conducted, no, sa emergency care but not COVID-related. Number of learners referred, 3. Hindi siya COVID-related. Duration of response, 1 to 2 hours. So, COVID-related, less than 1 hour. And then yung mental health and psychological support, wala tayong naitala o na-report na nangyari. Next. So school lockdown information. Itong lockdown ito na yung San Marcelino National High School noon. So this is not new. Naranasan ito nung first day ng ating pilot face-to-face, no. Nag-lockdown ng 7 days because mayroong nag-positive sa antigen pero na-confirm naman na negative sila for RT-PCR. Next. Pero in-observe pa rin nila ang yung number of days for lockdown. Next. Next slide. So school-based health services. So may mga schools na nag-continue ng kanilang feeding program. May 6 na schools na nag-continue ng kanilang immunization program on top of sa COVID-19. Ito yung mga regular na mga immunization program. And then distribution of WIFA supplements for female. Ito yung mga baka nasa senior high school na ito. And then sessions on psychosocial intervention. Mayroong nangyaring deworming in one school. And then height and weight measurement. Nag-measure. And then yung iba, walang naranasan na ganyan. Yes, Asik Karma daw got disconnected. So ito po ay kinontinue ng DepEd ng mga schools natin. Pero may 8 na nawala silang ganyan. Next. Next slide. So other school-based health services, yung tracing of unvaccinated students. Siyempre ito sa mga senior high school, alam natin na sakop na ng vaccination for minors yung ating senior high school learners, no. So tinitingnan na ngayon ng DepEd kung ilan yung mga nationwide scale, no, kung ilan na yung vaccinate na mga learner natin, at ito ay nilagay na natin sa ating learner information system. Itinatag na natin dito yung mga learner natin na makakapagpakita ng kanilang mga vaccination card sa ating school para maitag sila sa ating learner information system. And then nagkaroon din po ng mga distribution of health kits, and then distribution ng vitamin C and zinc. And then distribution of anti-COVID related materials, yung face mask at iba pang mga PPE na magiging stock po ito ng school. And then school initiative of hot meals for learners. Meron din pong nagbigay ng hot meals, and then sugar test for school personnel. Sa mga naman ito, sa mga teacher and school personnel. And then yung ginawa po ng barangay, yung regular disinfection. Disinfection sa ating mga school. So next slide. Ay nandito na si Asik Garma. So Asik, Malcolm, I continued some of the slides while you are trying to connect. So nandito na po tayo sa slide na to if you want to continue the presentation, Asik.
Director Roger, okay, you may continue. I'm having unstable connection.
Yeah, okay. So thank you. So anyway, a few slides na lang ito. Ito pinapakita dito yung some challenges encountered by the school in terms of coordinating with community, partners, and authorities. In terms of coordination in terms of preparing partitions and making sure that the school environment is safe and clean with the support of the stakeholders and local officials. So, nagkakaroon ng konting siguro dahil karamihan sa mga schools na to ay walang signal, mahina yung internet at halos walang signal, kaya nagkakaroon ng communication challenges, no. Unstable and absence of signal, ito nga yung sinasabi ko kanina, na this affects communication between school and parents and school and community. And mayroong mga delay of responses sa mga usapan ng school at ng ating mga parents at ng ating mga partners. Ang ibang parents ay hindi naintindihan yung understand the limited number of learners and the prescribed session for F2F, kasi may mga parents talaga na gusto na hindi nila maintindihan bakit kakunti lang ang pwedeng pumasok sa schools. So kulang lang po ito sa sa orientation, although lahat naman ng school natin ay nakapag-orient naman sa mga tenets ng ating joint memorandum circular. They send all their children in school and rejected the modules given. So may mga parents siguro na nang makita na marami ng bata na pinayagan na pumasok sa paaralan in person, may mga parents na lahat ng bata ng anak niya ay pinapunta sa school at isinoli na yung mga module at gusto na nilang makasali sa face-to-face. Less donations of medical assistance and school improvement assistance from our stakeholders and LGU. So, pero first, pa lang naman yan, first week pa lang naman yan. And some of the parents are not yet vaccinated. So, ito naman, may instruction naman ng ating operations group na i-track din yung mga vaccination ng kanilang mga magulang ng ating mga mag-aaral, kasi of course Siyempre, lumalabas yung bata, lumalabas din sila. So kailangan na sa loob ng bahay mayroon din nangyayaring pag-iingat kahit na sila ay mga members of the family. And then there are also late barangay LGU support in sending the barangay tanods just to manage the entrance and exit doon. Pero na-late lang naman, pero nandun naman sila. Next. So other comments and feedback. Next slide. So other comments and feedback, we are very grateful to our BLGU or LGU and the parents for showing their support in this limited face-to-face classes. So appreciation. By far, the school has received the most appropriate and sufficient amount of support from its stakeholder relative to the conduct of the pilot implementation of face-to-face. So sobra po nagpapasalamat ang ating mga paaralan, pamunuan ng paaralan sa mga suportang naibigay po, not only from DepEd but lalo na sa mga stakeholders na nandoon sa paligid ng school. Ito po yung mga mga screenshot or mga verbatim na kinapi-paste namin dito sa presentation na to. Sabi pa ng isang isang teacher, in God's grace, first week of pilot limited face-to-face implementation was successful with the participation and coordination of the stakeholders, community, BLGU, and parents. Parents are so happy for the program or in face-to-face classes. So all positive and happy comments ang naibigay natin, ang naibigay ng ating mga implementers ng face-to-face natin on the ground. Next. Next slide, kung mayroon pa. Oh, so that's the last slide, Director Nina, and thank you for listening, and back to you, Director Nina.
Maraming salamat, Director Roger. At isa nga po yung patunay na kahit nagkakaroon po tayo ng mga technical difficulties, dito po tayo sa DepEd ay talagang nagkakaisa at tulong-tulong sa pagpapatupad ng ating limited face-to-face classes. Thank you for taking over, Director Roger. Maraming salamat din, Asek Malcolm, sa iyong presentation. Ayan.
Director Nina?
Yes, would you like to...
Okay. Sorry, I was disconnected. But just to because some media partners are already requesting for the presentation. So we'll just try to validate lang muna yung data natin doon sa number of learners natin. But I think with the presentation of the highlights or the assessment for the first week, baka yung Director Roger pwede na natin sigurong i-share.
And if I may join the conversation, i-advise natin ang ating media friends na ang number ng teachers na nagbigay ng feedback na ito is over 1,000. Tapos yung may mga feedback na yan, siyempre what is interesting generally would be the challenges. Pero makita natin yung numbers, 1, 6, 4, 18 or what, compared to a universe of more than 1,000 teachers. Kasi kailangan makuha natin yung, ma-appreciate natin yung context. Kaya importante din na i-emphasize natin yung binasa kanina ni Roger na ang general talaga is generally natutuwa ang teachers, natutuwa ang parents, natutuwa ang local governments na na-restore na. Kasi the temptation might be to emphasize what the challenges are na kung i-proportion mo yan sa more than 1,000 teachers na nagbigay ng feedback, hindi naman ganun kalaki. So, dapat anuhin natin yan kasi siyempre, we are more interested in the challenge than in the victories, in the tears rather than in the joy, no? So ganun lang, i-contextualize natin yung ating pag-share. Okay man sa akin, I mean, of course, media is entitled to whatever information we can share because public can also give advice to us. But overall, it was as expected na kitang-kita naman na lahat-lahat natutuwa. And by the way, I should also like to share that the President already approved our request na kung i-expand natin ang itong pilot implementation, this was discussed during the Senate hearing, ay pumayag na siya na the Department of Education and the Department of Health by themselves will make that decision na di na yan pabalik-balik tayo sa President na dagdagan natin ng 10, dagdagan natin ng 50 pa, ganun. Tayo na ang mag-decide together with the Department of Health. So, yun lang ang gusto kong bigyan ng emphasis. Especially kasi we like numbers, of course. Oo, gusto natin yung mag-cite ng mga numbers. And this was obvious during the hearing also yesterday. Pero yung context at saka yung proportion at saka yung significance ng mga numbers has to also be considered. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Secretary. Yes, Asik Malcolm, would you like to continue?
Yeah, precisely. That's the reason, Director Nina, that we would ask our friends from media na i-validate muna natin yung mga numero. But what we would like to share with them and the public, of course, is basically the general impression of what happened during our first week of assessment. So magandang maibahagi sa kanila yung mga anecdotes, no, na nakuha natin, nakalap natin. And as we have emphasized, Director Nina and Secretary, 56 out of the 100 pa lang naman yung ating nakuhang impormasyon for the 100 for the 100 public schools. So yeah, Director Nina, back to you.
Thank you, Asik Malcolm. Yes, can we request all our participants and those joining in this Zoom meeting to please have yourselves muted po unless you are recognized to make any response or comments. Thank you very much. Ayan, muli maraming salamat Secretary, Asik Malcolm, and Director Roger. At this point naman, mula po sa updates on our public schools, ay magkakaroon din po tayo ng updates ukol naman sa mga private schools na sumalang po sa ating limited face-to-face classes. Kaya unang araw po kahapon ng limited face-to-face classes sa selected private schools. At para bigyan tayo ng updates ukol rito, makakasama po natin ang ating Director for Bureau of Curriculum Development, ang Director po na hindi pa po napapagod na mag-inspect at mamasyal sa ating mga private schools. Andito po si Director Jocelyn Andaya.
Thank you, Director Nina. Magandang hapon po, lalo na sa ating butihing kalihim, si Ma'am Secretary Leonor Magtolis Briones. Ma'am, good afternoon. And magandang hapon din po sa mga Execom and Mancom na nandito rin po sa pagpupulong na ito. Magandang hapon sa ating media partners at sa mga nanonood. Nais ko lang pong ibahagi din yung mga nangyari kahapon, unang araw ng pagbubukas ng face-to-face classes sa pampribadong paaralan. Alam niyo po, dalawang eskwelahan ang pinuntahan ko kahapon sa Central Luzon. Una yung Academica de Meridian doon sa Zambales. 10 estudyante lamang po ito from K to 3, pero nakita ko po na baka sa kanila yung kasabikan, sabik na pumasok sa paaralan. Dala-dala po ang kanilang mga baon. Tapos nakipag-usap kaagad sa kanilang mga kaklase, pero napansin po natin na meron talaga silang social distancing. At ang mga guro doon ay talaga namang pong handa sa pagbabalik ng mga estudyante sa paaralan. Nandun din po yung Rural Health Unit at ibang mga kasamahan sa DepEd para suportahan ang ating ang Academica de Meridian doon sa Zambales. Pagkatapos po doon ay tumungo tayo sa Mother of Good Counsel doon naman sa City of San Fernando, Pampanga. Talaga naman pong full force ang support ng lokal na pamahalaan. Nandun po si Mayor Santiago na talaga namang kahit bago pa yung pagbubukas ng pilot face-to-face classes ay nakipag-ugnayan na sa paaralan upang masiguro na ito ay ligtas at na-observe ang mga kaukulang protocols na sa pagbubukas ng paaralan. Tinanong ko po yung mga estudyante, 10 lang naman po yun sa Academica de Meridian at saka 16 sa senior high school doon sa Mother of Good Counsel. Tinanong ko sila kung anong dahilan, bakit sila pumayag na pumasok. At ang sabi po nila ay talaga namang sabik na silang makaniig ang kanilang mga kaklase at maging ang kanilang mga guro. At sa senior high school naman ay talagang gusto pa nilang matuto at makipagtalakayan sa kanilang mga guro. Ang hiling lang naman po ng mga guro at mga administrador sa dalawang paaralan ay payagan na ang ibang mga grade level na mag face-to-face na rin. Pinaalalahanan ko din ang mga bata na panatilihin ang pagsusuot ng face mask at yung pag-observe ng social distancing at iba pa nating mga protocols. Ang mga reports po sa regions tungkol sa first day ay makakalap pa po natin ngayong linggo, pero patuloy ang ating pag-monitor upang ma-ensure na ang lahat ng mga protocols ay ma-observe ng ating mga eskwelahan. Ngayon po ay babahagi ko po ang ilang mga datos at updates tungkol sa pilot face-to-face classes ng private schools. Pagbabalik tanaw lang po na 79 private schools ang nagbigay po ng kanilang aplikasyon nung nag-release ang DepEd ng isang panganyaya para sa mga private schools na sumali dito sa ating pilot implementation. Out of the 79 private schools, 33 private schools were nominated by a total of 12 regional offices, and these were submitted to the DepEd Central Office, particularly po sa Private Education Office. No private schools were nominated in Regions 2, Cordillera Administrative Region, Region 4A, and Region 4B, due to their alert level classification and their assessment of applications. Doon po sa kabuang bilang na 33, 20 ang napili po natin para mag face-to-face. At we were able to announce the list of these 20 private schools last November 16. Okay. Upon further coordination with the regional offices, changes were made to the November 16 list due to the varying reasons, such as 2 schools deferred their conduct of their face-to-face classes to January 2022. 2 eskwelahan din, sabi nila, maghintay muna sila na may go signal sa pagbubukas ng ibang pang mga track sa senior high school. Tapos isang eskwelahan ay hindi nakakuha ng LGU concurrence at isang eskwelahan naman ay kailangan pa rin daw nila ng masusing konsultasyon sa mga stakeholders. So sa kabuang 20, naging 80 na lang po yan as of yesterday, at yan na po yung kabuuan ng mga nag-participate para sa ating pilot run. Itong mga eskwelahan na hindi na napili para sa pilot run, kasama na po sila doon sa expansion phase. Of course, if the documents and all the other requirements will be met. And then, nais ko lang po ding ibahagi na nagkaroon din po ng pupulong tayo doon sa ating mga Quality Assurance Division Chiefs para ma-ensure natin na talagang handa na ang ating mga pampribadong paaralan, yung 20 na mag-face-to-face sila. And then afterwards ay talaga namang pong nag-orient na tayo sa mga private schools. Ano ang mga kailangan nilang gawin, ano pa yung mga requirements na pwede nilang ibigay sa departamento. So, ito po yung summary ng private schools for the face-to-face pilot run. Okay. At gusto ko din pong ibahagi po itong final. Sa Region 1, sa Alamino City, 2 po yan dati pero nag-back out nga po yung isa. So itong 100 Island Cowboy Christian Learning Center. Sa Region 3, 3 po yan pero yung Singapore School Clark na pinuntahan ko rin po kahapon, para lang makita din ang kahandaan nila sa pag-open nila sa January 2022. So Mother of Good Counsel at Academica de Meridian. Sa Region 5, meron po tayong Sunshine International School Foundation. Nag-add po tayo niyan over the weekend kasi talaga naman pong handa na rin po sila at na-comply na nila lahat ng mga documents and requirements. Sa Region 6, Oxmont Memorial Academy and Gamot Cogon Waldorf School ang nag-open. Ang St. Anthony's College, nag-dinifer muna natin. Sa Region 7, dalawa po ang ating inaprubahan doon. Una yung Sisters of Mary School sa Boys Town and then Sisters of Mary School Girls Town. Nakakomply din po ng mga requirements ang Girls Town, so isinama na po natin dito. And then sa Region 8, Mount Moriah Christian Academy. Yung Notre Dame of Abuyog ay dinifer po muna. And then sa Dipolog City, ang Metro Dipolog Baptist Academy. Region 10, Dior and Dun Academy of Technology and St. Paul's Institute of Technology, Iligan City. Dinifer muna ang sa Xavier University kasi para na lang sila doon sa ating expansion phase. Ang ipinalit po natin ay ang Lifehouse Montessori Academy. Sa Region 11, dinifer din muna natin yung sa Ato Padada kasi kailangan pa nilang ayusin ang iba nilang mga dokumento. Pero inad po natin ang Faith International Academy of Davao City. Ganun din po, handa na rin po silang mag-implement. And then Region 12, Best College of Polomolo, Banga Evangelical Church, Elementary School, Inc., and Midsayap Montessori Center sa South Cotabato. At sa Caraga, Bayugan City, New Moriah Adventist Elementary School. Yan po yung kabuuan at pinal na listahan ng initial schools that will participate, that have participated in this pilot run. Ang datos po natin tungkol sa mga numero ng school personnel, number of teachers natin ay 218 at non-teaching personnel ay 157. Ang total po natin na school personnel ay 375. Sa atin naman pong mga estudyante, K-3, yung number of kinder learners 164, number of grade 1 learners 130, number of grade 2 learners 140, number of grade 3 learners 121. Ang kabuuang bilang po ay 555. Sa atin naman pong senior high learner 1,177. So ang total learners po natin ay 1,732. Makikita po dito na mas marami ang ating naaprubahan doon sa senior high school kesa sa ating K-3. Yan po muna ang ating datos para sa private school. Kagaya ng sinabi ko po kanina, makakalap pa tayo ng maraming datos after the first week po of the implementation. At isa na lang pong impormasyon na ang Kukopeya po ay nagsabi po na baka pwede sila ay maisama sa pag-monitor kasi para ma-evaluate din nila yung kanilang kahandaan sa pagbubukas ng klase. Ang sabi po naman natin at meron tayong permiso kay Secretary na pwede naman silang kasama sa monitoring. Kailangan lang natin ibigay yung mga terms of reference nila. Pero welcome po sila sa ating pag-monitor po ng ating mga select private schools. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Director Joyce. Thank you for your updates. At ngayon naman po, alamin na natin ang lagay ng ating mga regions sa unang linggo ng pagpapatupad ng ating limited face-to-face classes. Sa mga kalahok na paaralan, mula po yan sa Regions 6, 8, and 9. Unahin na po natin ang ating update mula sa Region 6. Makakasama po natin Regional Director Ramir Oitico. Magandang tanghali, RD.
Magandang tanghali. Good afternoon, Ma'am Liling. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm now about to present the updates on the limited face-to-face in Region 6. Out of the 29 schools that we recommended, only 3 schools ngayon ang nag-implement ng limited face-to-face. Though we met a lot of challenges, but we can assure our beloved secretary that we have the seamless implementation of the limited face-to-face in the 3 schools. One in Nabas, Aklan, it's La Serna Integrated School, Igsoro Integrated School of Bugasong, Antique, Mayabay Elementary School of Barbasa, Antique. And we were so happy that during the opening of classes, Ambat, Assistant Secretary Ambat and Director Marilet Almeida were with us. And some of the regional and division officials were also, they also visited the other 2 schools. And what is important, during the opening of classes, we also held our regional press conference because all the time we in the Department of Education have been challenged regarding misinformation. So in order to prevent that, we really conducted our regional press conference in Nabas, Aklan. And so this is just from La Serna Integrated School, we have the attendance, almost perfect attendance for during the first day. And ito yung ibang mga pictures sa La Serna Integrated School sa Nabas, Aklan. And we have 29 teachers. And yes, and aside from La Serna Integrated School, we have Igsoro Integrated School in Bugasong, Antique. There are 39 attendance. In Mayabay Integrated School in Barbasa, Antique, we also have almost perfect attendance, and the absences were due to the weather condition and health reasons. So iyan yung makita sa screen, yung some of the pictures taken in Mayabay. And for the physical preparation updates, the schools adopted 1 entrance, 1 exit policy. And I was able to witness that. Also ASEC JH and Director Malit witnessed that 1 entrance, 1 exit policy. And we were so amazed by the markers to control mobility and the use of mother tongue in signages para maintindihan talaga yung sa mga bata. No? In that picture, mayroon diyang hudya ang pagwa. No? It's a mother tongue. And they also conducted simulation activities to prepare for the limited face-to-face classes. And nakita natin doon yung bayanihan. Even during the opening of classes, nakita pa rin namin some of local officials. And sa picture na yan, nakita natin yung pagtutulong-tulungan, no, sa community, sa mga LGUs in the 3 schools na nagbukas. And what is important, in-emphasize talaga sa 3 schools ang health and safety. Barangay officials established checkpoints for incoming visitors. And I also experienced that in one of the 3 schools. It was in Igsuro na pinahinto talaga kami, and we were also asked na, sir, galit kayo? Sabi ko hindi. This has to be in place because we want to protect our children. So the barangay officials established checkpoints. Mayroong QR code to track attendance. Mayroong screening device, disinfectants at the entrance, and mga UV sterilizer. At may inassign ng mga officials to really check na the physical distancing sa 3 schools. And nakita din namin yung setup, no? May yun ang totoong mga nangyayari talaga sa 3 schools. na mayroon talagang shields yung mga bata para to protect them, no? And these are some of the pictures na ito talaga ang mga nakikita natin sa tatlong schools. And merong mga improvised washing facilities in far-flung schools. And what is good, ang Lacerna Integrated School, ano siya, SBM wins 3 stars, Iksuro Integrated School, SBM wins 2 stars, at ang Mayabay Elementary School, SBM wins 2 stars. So we can really expect na smooth yung pagpuprotect ng ating mga kabataan, kasi we really have emphasized itong mga facilities for washing sa ating mga kabataan. And talking about coordination, kasi hindi natin ito magawa, no, sa DepEd alone. When I was in Nabas, I was able to meet the mayor, and I was impressed na hands-on talaga yung mayor sa Nabas. And talking about coordination, daily attendance with of the MDRRMO and health workers, nakita talaga namin presence of barangay officials and tanods at checkpoint areas and school entrance, home school communication through calls, messaging, and two-way radio station, at andun din yung mga IP elders and community support from other districts. Yung nakita namin na in Antique, doon sa Igsoro, yung mga principals coming from other schools, doon talaga sila natulog sa Igsoro just to help Igsoro Integrated School prepare for the limited face-to-face. So yun, continuous support of NGOs and other organizations. And status of vaccination, 100% fully vaccinated ang school personnel in Lacerna, Igsoro, and also in Mayabay. Nakita talaga namin yung smooth ng pagbukas ng pasukan, and even until this very minute, dahil sa class schedule na inadapt sa tatlong schools natin. And ito yung status sa face-to-face natin dito sa Region 6. It's 3 out of 4,047 public schools at 2 out of 21 SDOs lang. Now for expanded naman, we have 166 out of 4,047 schools at naisubmit na natin ito sa central office at 16 out of 21 SDOs. And sa private schools naman, mayroon tayong 2 as reported by Director Joyce at 1 out of 21 SDOs, kasi yung 2 schools na yan nasa Iloilo lang, Iloilo Province. What is important sa panahon ngayon, kasi naikwento na ni ASEC Garma at Director Roger yung mga challenges natin, i-capitalize ko na lang yung mga insights, kasi para sa akin, ang pandemic na ito ay nagbigay sa atin ng maraming mga lessons in life. As the regional director, during my rounds, I learned a lot of things, mga new learnings ko, insights ko. Ganun din yung superintendents natin sa 2 divisions, si Superintendent Felisa Beryong at Superintendent Miguel Mac Apusin. Talagang marami silang na-share na mga insights na iba na ang mga nangyayari sa kanilang career, sa kanilang mga buhay dahil sa pandemic na ito. So, ang support from the regional division offices, LGUs, parents, and stakeholders really spells a difference. Pag magsasama-sama tayong lahat, iba talaga ang mangyayari. At nakita natin sa 3 schools, hands-on ang ating mga school heads. Strategic engagement with internal and external stakeholders is the call really of the time. At ang plano ngayon, hindi lang nangyari na ito previous days, benchmarking by other schools is a felt need para makita nila kung anong nangyayari sa Lacerna, Igsoro at sa Mayabay. So mag-benchmarking na pupunta yung mga school heads para to also prepare them in case ma-approve yung application for the limited face-to-face. Provision of technical assistance has ensured success. Damang-dama yan sa ating mga school heads na nagsusupport talaga regional, division, district levels. Ang SBM wins, kailangan yan, at ang impact of the successful opening of the limited face-to-face classes has triggered other LGUs to give it a try. With special emphasis sa mayor ng Nava, sabi niya, RD, sana madagdagan yung schools namin dito sa Navas kasi ang realization namin, mas safe yung kabataan namin sa school kaysa bahay. Of course, from the gate to the classrooms, andun lahat yung mga health na mga equipment, mga materials natin. While at home daw, walang nagmo-monitor kasi the parents are busy na naghahanap buhay yung mga magulang. So para daw sa kanya, Mayor of Navas, Aklan, safe daw yung kabataan pag nasa schools kasi nakita talaga ni Mayor how our limited face-to-face classes are being conducted in the place. And ito yung private schools na i-report naman ito ni Director Joyce kanina, 2 private schools in Iloilo. We are also providing them with technical assistance kasi we belong to one umbrella, that of the Department of Education. So ito yung some of the pictures natin, and then sa mga private schools, and a glimpse of the limited face-to-face classes of Region 6. This is just a very short video. That ends the presentation of DepEd Region 6. To Ma'am Liling, to all our media partners, and to everybody listening, watching, we can assure you that in DepEd Region 6, we can continuously produce champions even in the midst of challenges. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much, our dear Amir, home of the champions. Ika nga, di ba? Thank you for your updates. And now, so that we'll have another set of updates from a different region naman, magkakaroon po tayo ng quick updates from RD Evelyn Fetalvero.
Maraming salamat po, Director Nina at Ninya. Yeah. At maupay na kulop sa iyong atanan, lalong-lalo na ang ating butihin at minamahal na Professor Leonor Magtoles Briones, our DepEd Secretary, ang lahat ng members ng EXICOM at ng MANCOM family. I would like to thank DepEd Central Office and also to the host region through Regional Director Gilberty Sadsad for this opportunity to share DepEd Eastern Visayas recovery efforts in bringing normalcy in education. We know for a fact that the past months have been very challenging, but with our strong collaboration and partnership with our stakeholders and education partners, we were able to somehow navigate the new normal in education. Daghang salamat. So my presentation will focus on the following areas: on participating schools and students, on limited face-to-face physical preparations and updates, then coordination with LGU, barangay officials, parents, and other stakeholders, the vaccination status of teachers and non-teaching staff, the class schedules, then the footages of the limited face-to-face preparations, and the first day of classes. So of the 120 or 118 public schools and 18 private schools identified for the pilot implementation of limited face-to-face classes, 10 public schools and 1 private school from Eastern Visayas passed the readiness assessment, and we are so happy with that. So of the 10 schools, 3 are from Leyte, 3 from Samar, and 4 from Calbayog City. We have 3 special programs being offered in Leyte, namely SPED for elementary, the Alive classes, and then the IP education elementary or K-3. And then we also have 1 school in Samar offering ALS, BLP elementary, and 1 school offering kindergarten to grade 3, and 1 school offering senior high school TBL. In Calbayog City, we have 3 schools offering kindergarten to grade 3 and 1 school offering senior high school TBL. We also have 1 private school offering senior high school TBL, which is Mount Moria Christian Academy of Ormoc City. By the way, I stand corrected. It is offering K-3. Okay, and there has to be 2, as mentioned by Director Joyce, but it is not offering, it's a high school, but it's not offering senior high school. That's why it should be included already in the expansion phase. So as to the health protocols, all pilot schools in Region 8 strictly implement the health standards in the implementation of the limited face-to-face classes. All our schools have triage at the entrance gate, performs screening such as taking of body temperature, some with QR codes, and do proper hand washing before entering their classrooms. Regular disinfection is done after every class. There is a functional school clinic and isolation areas. The schools also have contingency plans, and all the employees are oriented on the COVID-19 referral system. Vaccination is intensified, and the teaching and non-teaching personnel and learner involved in the pilot implementation are provided with hygiene and sanitation kits. These are the existing classroom setup of the 10 pilot schools. All the pilot schools follow the class and learner standards. Then the next 2 slides are photos of the hand washing facilities of our pilot schools. All are functional and with continuous water supply. The hand washing facilities are installed at the entrance gate to ensure that everyone who will enter will do the hand washing and will pass through the triage. There are also hand washing facilities installed near the classrooms. So, as a requirement to implement the limited face-to-face classes, DepEd Region 8 secured support from the local government units. Series of meetings have been conducted prior to the pilot implementation. All the 10 pilot schools are with full support from the local government units, be it barangay level, municipal level, and city level. Then, aside from the concurrence from LGUs, the pilot schools also secured consent from our parents. Is very important. So the photos here were taken during the consultation meeting with the parents and guardians and convergence with stakeholders during the validation of the regional monitoring team. And then shown in this slide is the vaccination update for DepEd Region 8. To date, 63.31% of the total population of employees have availed the vaccination program. For the pilot schools, 6 schools have achieved 100% fully vaccinated employees. 4 schools are nearing 100% vaccination rate. Those who have not availed yet the vaccine had their health and personal reasons, and their situation is being managed by our health personnel in the division. We are currently intensifying our advocacy on vaccination. Natatouch talaga ako na doon kami with ASIC Bert Escobarte, nag-monitor, and we know that we learned that there are 2 teachers on the family way, no? 5th month at saka 4th month yung dalawang guro. Ay patapos na pala silang nagpabakuna. And they are really following our health protocols na sinasabi natin. Yung iba ay natakot magpabakuna dahil buntis. But there they were, they have been fully vaccinated. Thanks to God for safe vaccination. So here are some samples of the class schedules of the pilot schools. All the pilot schools follow the teaching standards stipulated in the Joint Circular Memorandum for the pilot implementation of the limited face-to-face classes. Allow me to share some snippets of the limited face-to-face classes preparations taken during the visits of the regional monitoring team. Technical assistance had been extended to the pilot schools to ensure readiness during the first day of classes. The regional office also have extended financial support to the pilot schools for the improvement of some facilities. So in here, we would like to thank our beloved secretary for the 100,000 financial assistance to every pilot school. The region also gave all the 8, they were given 50,000, but there are 2 schools, the WO Integrated School and Makatingog Elementary Schools, who were given 100,000 pesos financial assistance because they also have to do some little repair work, like one classroom there need completion of their ceiling. Kaya ginawa na nating 100,000, and then the other school, kailangan yung pavement nila ay talagang safe for the young children. At meron ding isang paralan na yung steps ng kanyang concrete stairs ay mahaba para sa mga grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 pupils. Kaya pina-revise yung kanilang concrete steps, no? Stairs. Okay. So the next slides were taken during the first day of the pilot implementation of the limited face-to-face classes. We are happy to announce that for the 10 pilot schools, the school opening had been generally successful. The regional monitoring team conducted interviews with parents, teachers, and learners as to their impression on the implementation on the limited face-to-face classes. The support of the parents, the teachers, the learners, the LGUs, and the community has been awe-inspiring. The LGU and the Barangay Council committed that they will continue to support our schools during the expansion. Before having my last slide, I just would like to add to the insights shared by R.D. Romer, and it is about constant dialogue, constant engagement with our stakeholders, and also constant meetings, not only with our stakeholders, but with our division composite team and also the regional coordinating team. Dahil doon po kami nagsishare ng aming mga ideas to really provide a safe and conducive learning environment for all our 10 public schools for the pilot run. And also, it pays talaga na yung mga superintendents, know how busy they are. Salamat, maraming salamat. And also, the regional director herself and the assistant regional director would really look at the actual setup of the schools. Just like when I decided, kasi if I was not able to see the actual situation, I may not decide to augment the 50,000 per school to 100,000 sa dalawang schools. Kasi hindi ko man makita, hindi nila makita na kailangan talaga ang classroom i-complete yung nila, yung kanilang ceiling and also the pavements, the concrete pavements of our learners should be that very, very safe. And I would also like to thank the City Savings Bank for providing for the materials and supplies worth 25,000 each to all the 10 pilot schools. So, Yuan, again, allow me to sincerely thank you all for helping the Department of Education in its recovery efforts. Our journey in ensuring learning continuity in the midst of this deadly pandemic was never a walk in the park. We had our ups and downs. We went valleys and peaks. But with the strong support of everyone, we did not feel being alone in our journey. My appeal to our media partners here is to help us in our recovery efforts to resume normalcy in education, to build back better and ensure that no child will be left behind. This is the favorite phrase of our beloved Secretary, Professor Yunor Magtoles Briones. Again, daghang salamat and may God continue to bless us all.
Thank you very much, RD Evelyn. Region 8 is great. Ayan.
Great! Yes, salamat.
Daghang salamat for joining us this afternoon and for giving us your regional updates. And to proceed po, we'll have our last regional update mula naman po ito sa Region 9. We have a video from Regional Director Ruth Fuentes.
Greetings of peace from Region 9. November 15, the first day of the limited face-to-face program or the opening of classes marks another milestone in the Philippine education system. We are privileged here at Region 9 to have hosted or to have 8 schools coming from 3 schools division offices, 4 elementary school and 4 senior high school to have implemented the limited face-to-face. And allow me to walk you through some specifics on the orderly and generally peaceful opening last November 15. In the first slide, you will see here the breakdown of enrollment. We will notice here that relatively the schools are small schools found in remote areas. I'm indeed privileged to have visited all these schools from few months back, from the time they are preparing for the limited face-to-face and during the first 2 days of the opening of classes. In the data, you will notice that on the first day we have almost 100% attendance, with some challenges in senior high school. Let me walk you through per school. All in all, the total enrollment who participated in the first day is 19.3 out of the total enrollment of the 8 schools. In San Vicente Elementary School, I witnessed the performance of a ritual by the Spanen. They call it Timway. This is done in order to ward off bad spirit. I also had the privilege of meeting with some parents, and going around the school, I see how they, I witnessed how they prepared. They are compliant in terms of putting up triads, wash area, and they even had thermal scanning. The schools, the classrooms had plastic barriers for the learners, but on the second day, they learned that the plastic barriers is not conducive anymore because it's too much, there's too much heat or poor ventilation result due to the plastic barrier, so they decided to remove the plastic barrier on the second day. In Silo, another elementary school, again, learners, there's perfect attendance. The mayor of Apaway, or the mayor of Silo, was there with us. I learned about the strong engagement with the local government unit, providing even for the snacks and meals of the learners. And the barangay captain was there together with his team for the whole day opening of classes, ensuring that peace and order was ensured, complete PPEs, and even the school readiness was observed. The challenge in this school is the source of water is actually they have a catchment area, so they relied on the rainwater for potable drinking water. The local government promised to provide a good source of water because the school is found in a mountainous area. But in terms of physical structure, in terms of traffic management, especially on the first day, I commend the preparation. I commend the team, the school division offices, and the team for very good preparation. On the third visit is a national high school in Zamboanga del Sur. It's Kumalarang. You will see here that everything also is in place. There's triads. They are compliant in terms of SAT readiness assessment. There was a poor attendance on the first day of classes because we learned that the governor scheduled vaccination for learners, for the senior high school participants in the limited face-to-face on Friday on that day. And for fear of many of the parents prevented their children or their children to go to school because they do not want their children to be vaccinated. So the challenge for us right now is to intensify vaccination program in order for the students and learners to avail of the vaccination program so we can go full blast in our school attendance. Our next stop is in Lala again. On the second day, we visited another elementary school in Pagadian City. Noticeable here is the presence of the hand washing facilities. The learners are in full. They are strictly practicing strict health protocols, also excellent traffic management in the school and even in the classroom. There were marshals in the school monitoring if the learners are properly wearing their face mask. Parents are even wearing their face shields here. But also the challenge, all the teachers are fully vaccinated. It is good to to note that all the 8 schools participating here in Zamboanga Peninsula, we have 98% vaccination rate of the teaching and the non-teaching personnel who are participating in the limited face-to-face. Next stop is in another school, is in Gipos, again, National High School. This is another senior high school. You will see here also the presence of plastic barrier for teachers, but the senior high school has, they even provided a separate entrance and a separate exit. You will notice here where students are practicing the 1.5 social distancing whenever they walk, and there's also a marshal monitoring the movement, and even they have 2 batches of students in order to limit the number. So they are catering to 10 in the morning and 10 in the afternoon. So what they are practicing also is per week basis. So for 5 days, there will be a 4-hour class program, and then another week would be modular distance learning, and for another week they will go to on-site or face-to-face. So that's how they arrange the class program in the senior high school. Another senior high school on the second day of monitoring is in Zamboanga del Sur in Suminot National High School. This is another tech-voc school. You will see here, noticeable is the strong LGU partnership, because even on the second day, we noticed the presence of some local government executives, the barangay officials, and even parents express their support by being present with their senior high school children attending classes. Parents were so excited to meet with us, expressing their support and a sigh of relief that finally limited face-to-face is slowly coming back. So we are so much. It was a meaningful day to have been engaged with the parents, with the learners, and local government officials on the second day of the opening of the limited face-to-face. Okay, this is another elementary school in Pagadian City which piloted limited face-to-face mga elementary school. What is noticeable also is the signages in order to provide good traffic management inside the school. The presence of, you will see here, parents joining the learners in going and in even coming home. Parents patiently waited for there's a separate area where parents can launch and wait for their children. Even clinics, school clinic were provided, and even a separate isolation area in the event that learners will not feel better. They will be separated immediately. I also noticed that the school nurses and even medical practitioners coming from the SDOs were there during the first 2 days of opening of classes. So out of the 20 indicators in the SAT tool were fully complied with. And finally, in Manga National High School, which is in the same compound in Pagadian City, this is also another senior high school wherein I noticed that even parents join their children, even senior high school. What is noticeable here is also the presence of the marshals. Here are the barangay officials inside the school, checking the temperature, checking the proper wearing of face mask and even face shields. also checking or monitoring if social distance or if the proper distance is being monitored or is being practiced. So also the signages are very, very evident. Those are the 8 schools which we have visited last week to prepare for the expansion of limited face-to-face. We have identified 12 more schools which have been found to be compliant with the SAT tool and school readiness assessment. These schools have been, some of these have been on the list, on the original list submitted, and have been monitored and assessed by DOH and IATF and even the schools division and regional monitoring team. They are compliant in terms of school readiness. Also in terms of vaccination, you will see here that it's all the participating schools, they have almost 100% vaccination rate for teaching and non-teaching personnel who will be participating in the limited face-to-face. Also, we ensure that LGU concurrence was secured. So that means from the barangay to the municipal to the provincial level, coming from the 5 school division offices which did not participate in the November 15 opening, we ensure that all the schools division offices in the whole Zamboanga Peninsula would be represented. We are happy to note that 1 private school in Zamboanga Peninsula opened last Monday, November 22. That is Metro Dipolog Baptist Academy, with 100% attendance of participating learners. Parents were there. Even if it is a private school, the mayor and some of his team went there to witness the first day of opening of the private school. This time, they did not hold classes inside an air-conditioned room but in an open space, ensuring that social distancing was practiced. Teachers were also excited teachers are also fully vaccinated, as well as parents who brought their children on the first day of school were reportedly 100% vaccinated. Nothing beats good preparation and planning. The conduct of the series of simulation activities prior to the opening of classes, it led to a smooth and generally peaceful opening of classes. Also, the strong linkage and the strong partnership with the local government and other stakeholders prove that together we can beat the pandemic.
Maraming salamat, RD Ruth, for updates. RD Ruth, gusto niyo pong bumati?
Yeah, thank you, Ma'am Liling, fellow educators. Good afternoon. We hope that we are pretty as excited as 2 weeks ago for the expansion of our face-to-face. We hope that the 12 schools we have been preparing all schools for the face-to-face, and they all we have been monitoring their school readiness. So we have been placed the monitoring team in the division in the regional offices. I have mentioned good preparation, good planning it actually mitigates the gaps and issues that are related to the limited face-to-face. And I hope we all go back to school, and nothing compensates for how the parents receive the limited face-to-face. I myself, I was able to talk to some of them, and it's really the excitement. I was able to attend the flag raising for the first time, and really the separation anxiety for the learners, for the small learners are real. That I could not help but hug one learner because he was crying, and it's a mixed feeling of excitement and separation anxiety for the lower ones. But surprisingly, we also want to intensify our advocacy because there's still resistance in terms of vaccination for for the senior high school students. Actually, the government is very supportive and very strong in their desire to fully vaccinate all those who are participating in the face-to-face, but actually the resistance is coming from the parents and the learners themselves. So I hope at our end, in our own way, we can actually advocate and we can convince them to have themselves vaccinated. Thank you very much, and God bless everyone.
Thank you very much, RD Ruth. Marami pong salamat to all our regional directors for sharing your updates and even sharing your personal insights and learnings throughout this implementation of our pilot face-to-face classes. At syempre, marami din pong salamat sa inyong patuloy na pagsisikap upang maitaguyod natin ang edukasyon, lalo na po sa panahon ngayon ng pandemya at sa pagpapatupad nga ng ating limited face-to-face classes. Ngayon naman po, bago na natin simulan ang ating actual press conference with our media partners. Kung may nais pong sabihin o mensahe ang ating ina ng kagawaran, we'll give her the time for a short message, Secretary, if you would have a message.
Thank you, Director Nina. As usual, I will not deliver a long and detailed report because our officials have already done that. And I would just like to give an overview of what has happened during the past week. Dalawang very major events ang nangyari this past week. One, of course, is the opening of face-to-face classes last November 15, and now it's followed by the opening of classes face-to-face for 18 private schools. And report na sa inyo overall at the national level. We're trying to give you as much information as possible because we believe in transparency and we want to keep the public updated on what are the blow-by-blow developments on this pilot, which has been a matter of intense debate and discussion for the past several months. So that's one, yung face-to-face. The second good news, I will start with the good news. The second good news, of course, is the press knows that last night, about 7 o'clock, the Senate terminated the discussions and debate on the budget of the Department of Education, and we are grateful to the Senate leadership, particularly our sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano, and all of those who raised clarificatory questions. And the overall mood was that being very supportive, hindi confrontational, more of seeking additional information and conversations on where does the Department of Education go from here and what will be done with the budget. And that was a very stimulating session. Thirdly, I would like to emphasize once more that, of course, the Department of Education has been the subject of international approval. UNICEF, which is always quoted insofar as education and the closure of schools is concerned, has awarded, and I would like to share, can I share the story? UNICEF awarded the Philippines a 5-star rating for remote learning readiness. And this is, they saw that for how many months we prepared for the pilot and we prepared for the eventual opening of schools again. And so we got a 5-star rating out of 67 countries which were analyzed. And so this kind of recognition emphasizes that the department and the government is really doing all that it can in the light of all the difficulties and the challenges. And this is recognized no less by the UNICEF itself. I'm repeating it again because sometimes these developments are not noticed immediately. Secondly, this is also from the international community. I'd like to announce also that the UNESCO once more that the UNESCO voted Philippines. This is last November 17. Ulit-ulitin ko because good news has to be repeated again and again and again to be noticed. So we garnered 165 votes from the entire United Nations family. So na-extend ang term ng Philippines sa UNESCO Executive Board, and we occupy one of the 6 available seats for the Asia-Pacific region. Now, I was scheduled to join the campaign and to present the position of the Philippines, but of course, the discussions on the budget and the face-to-face opening was just as urgent, if not more urgent. So we were represented by our own Chief of Staff and Undersecretary Nepong Malaluan. So as I said, this is a wonderful legacy to the next administration, Chief. So we will always have that opportunity. And I have done this and in UNESCO, whenever I notice that there are matters which UNESCO has to take action on, I immediately communicate with them, and we are very active in all their meetings, all their seminars and initiatives, etc., etc. And as I said, this is a wonderful legacy to the next DepEd secretary. So we are getting, not really because we have always been getting international recognition, but 2 more international recognitions at this time, which I would like to repeat. Then the face-to-face, fairly successful for both public and the private sector, and the termination of the debates last night in the Senate in an atmosphere of helpfulness, of dialogue, and discussions of the directions of the Department of Education. So yun ang good news which I would like to share with everyone, and we are now ready, all of us, for any further clarifications which the press would like to raise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary, for all those international recognitions for the Department of Education and all the major milestones that we have achieved under your leadership. Ayan po, that was Secretary Briones, our source of inspiration upang makabuo po tayo ng isang mahusay na plano upang maipagpatuloy natin ang isang ligtas na balik-eskwela ngayong school year 2021 to 2022. Ayan, thank you very much, Secretary. At ngayon, we are now ready for our open forum or press conference. And again, just some quick reminders before we officially begin. We will be proceeding with a question and answer, but we would like to request our media partners that if you are already acknowledged to speak, please do not forget, of course, to unmute and kindly turn on your cameras. And also, questions not related to our topic on face-to-face classes will be referred to our respective concerned EDUCASYON officials and concerned offices, and we will be sending our responses via Viber na lamang po. All right, so to start, may we now call on, for the first question, may we now call on Ms. Jane Bautista from The Inquirer.
Good afternoon po. So, one of the challenges na nabanggit po kanina na hinaharap ng mga teachers ay yung multiple attention needed for both for modular and face-to-face. So, how does the DepEd plan to address this concern po?
Even before the start of the pilot, that challenge was already identified. And as I emphasized kanina, when we were sharing the data, we had feedback from over 1,000 teachers. And of course, we had the schools, no, the 100 schools. And there were several who gave that kind of feedback. And we are taking it seriously. And so the schools at the individual level have to do their own planning, their own coordination, depending on what the situation is. Because you would have schools where, like Ruth was saying, there are still those who do not want to participate in face-to-face. And this is coming out. I'd always believed that there were those who were not particularly jumping up and down with joy. And this came out during the pilot because the overwhelming demand was back to face-to-face. Now we see certain challenges which are surfacing and we have to act on them. But these are not necessarily picturing what the entire situation is, because as a whole, and we have been receiving reports, and your media people in the field have also seen how joyful the local governments are, the parents are. Mas overwhelming ang joy kaysa hesitance. But it does not mean that we ignore those who are hesitant. And so it's not only the students, the learners that we have to take care of, or even our own teachers whom we are always taking care of, but you have to consider the parents, because what the learners, how they behave, whether they go to school or not, especially for the very young ones, is determined by the parents themselves. So this is an area where we have perhaps to give more attention to, and I have always thought that there would be pockets of reservations among parents for whatever reason, vaccination, face-to-face, and so on. But we have to attend to this, and it is a challenge to us, of course. So thank you for that. We're looking at this, Jane, on a case-to-case basis, kasi magkaiba. Some, there are challenges because of faith or religion. Others are of fear. Others, kulang ang information. So we look at this on an individual basis and adjust accordingly.
Second question po, will there be additional schools na sasali po sa first batch? Or if ever, how likely po na makasama yung schools from Metro Manila?
Excellent question. Only a few minutes ago, RD Ruth Fuentes was already advocating additional schools. And this is coming from the field. We're getting feedback, of course, from local governments. There are also 1 or 2 local governments who have their own worries. Pero a good number, parang mas majority yung gustong maibalik yung schools, no? And also from the parents. As for NCR, it really depends on the risk assessment. Kasi Jane, pag papayag kasi nakahanda naman yung listahan namin, pag favorable ang risk assessment, kasi there's always this fear at the back of our minds that there might COVID might misbehave again, as it did early this year. So ang push ngayon, and this was during the budget debates nga, sige na continue kasi so that if anything happens, we'll be more or less prepared. Kasi there is always that fear at the back of our minds, but we cannot always live with fear. I mean, we cannot always be afraid of fear. We have to confront it and we have to deal with it we have to identify where the fear is coming from. And so ang crucial dito sa NCR, which is your question, is the risk assessment. And in NCR, I will not mention names of local governments. There are local government mayors who still are quite hesitant. And it's a good thing, Jane, na lumabas ito na ano natin yung pilot. Because if you read whatever is in social media or in the news, everybody is for face-to-face. Now, what is coming out is that there are sections of our population who need more information and more convincing, including local government people. So even in NCR, there are still those who are reflecting and thinking very seriously, especially yung areas na marami ang schools na naka-concentrate. And sabi ko pa nga I'm also interested in 4A because 4A is actually bigger than NCR in terms of number of learners. At saka yung variety is just as intense. Sinabi ko na ito the last time, no? Kasi 4A is a manufacturing and industrial area, while NCR is the financial center, it's the governance center. Magkaiba silang malaki, pero in terms of volume of learners, malaki ang Region 4A. So ito binabantayan natin in terms of COVID and the health situation. So crucial dito ang local government. Kami, of course, it makes sense to know what is happening, not only in schools where there are few learners, Jane, but also to know what is happening in schools where you have, really, you're talking of hundreds of thousands of kids and teachers in the big regions. You have Cebu at the same time, you have Davao, pero malaki talaga NCR and 4A. Yeah. So, yun. And we're hoping talaga, we are praying na at the rate the numbers are coming out, NCR would be a very strong possibility, and we are already readying for that. May mga schools na identify, pag aayos lang ang health assessment, then definitely we will. Kasi by December, Jane, we are going to ang pilot natin will be up to December. And then we'll go through a period of assessment and then decide to expand some more. At saka, by the way, the President has already agreed. He made a request 2 weeks ago if hayaan na niya yung education at saka ang health ang mag-decide sa expansion. And he gave that permission already. Sabi niya, as long as we implement the same standards that we implemented for the pilot schools. So, ayun.
So, how likely po na makahabol sila sa first batch or sa next batch na po ba yung NCR?
Baka sa next batch sila, pero for this batch, as I said, we're waiting for the next risk assessment. But yung listahan namin nakahanda na. Even sa private schools, we have an idea already of the schools in NCR who will qualify. At saka yung consent ng local government officials, yung mayor, yun, importante yun. Okay.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jane Bautista, for your questions. Yes, Secretary?
I'm waiting for the next question.
Yes po. For the next question, let's call on Ms. Ara Perez ng ABS-CBN.
Hello, good afternoon po. Doon pa rin po sa assessment, may students po ba na kasali sa face-to-face classes na biglang nagba-back out and vice versa? Meron po bang gusto namang sumali? And paano po yun ina-address? Paano pwede po ba yun na sumali sa kalagitnaan ng pilot test?
Yung sa report kanina ni Malcolm, there were those who were not able to attend the first week of school, di ba? for various reasons, may not feeling well, may family events, ganon-ganon, o masyadong malakas ang ulan, hindi mahahatid. So there were reasons, and that always happens naman in school opening. So I would imagine, correct me Malcolm and Ardis, I would imagine that every effort will be made na makahabol sila in this, kasi napili na yung schools nila eh. Oo. Di ba, magbibilang naman tayo. Remember sa panahon mo na nagbibilang tayo how many absences, yung mga ganong-ganong considerations. So this is just for the first week. So maybe Malcolm can add to that, or the RDs. Ako, ang thinking ko, makahahabol sila. Oo. Kasi
Yes,
up to December naman ang ang pilot natin.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Ara, lahat ng mga enrolled learners doon sa mga schools na ito are considered qualified to join our pilot face-to-face. However, we emphasize the necessity of having the parents' consent. Importante talaga yon. So, at the end of the day, it's the decision of the parents kung gusto nilang pasalihin yung kanilang mga anak. Pero along the way, itong kabuuan ng pilot study natin, Miss Ara, pwede silang sumali hanggat papayagan sila ng magulang. So far, wala naman tayong narinig na report based on the assessment report ng week 1 na nag-back out na. Ang nakuha natin ay yung impormasyon bakit hindi sila nakapasok. And nabanggit na natin yung mga dahilan kung bakit hindi sila nakapasok. At kung sakali man, itong mga batang hindi nakapasok ay gustong tumuloy pa rin dito sa face-to-face, welcome yung mga bata as long as again merong paalam ang magulang. At kung hindi naman, babalik lang sila doon sa home-based learning, Ms. Ara, para tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung kanilang klase. Thank you po, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ay, mabuti naman, pareho pala ang sagot nating dalawa. Pero it makes sense kasi oo na, okay. May tanong ka pa, Ara?
Thank you po. Just one last po dun sa expansion. May timeline po ba? Like, kasi po 2 weeks or last week ba nung nag-release ng statement po from DepEd na dadagdagan yung pilot school. So, kailan po kaya yun?
Kasi matapos ang pilot December, di ba? Tatapusin natin yan sa December. And as we are continually assessing na kung palagay ko kung after 2 weeks mahirap naman na papasok sila sa gitna ng maybe sa second batch kasi nakahanda na rin yung mga mga mayors, mga parents, ang mga directors, may mga listahan na sila, naka-identify na sila na kung kasi kailangan kasi na we have, this is why serious kami about the assessment and the feedback. Kasi after December, we will make the overall assessment and then we decide to further expand. Pero ang hope natin na by next year, talagang significant na yung pagbubukas ng klase. Depende also on the behavior of COVID. But it's something that we have to live with. It's there. Para bang parang Mount Everest. Why are we doing this? Because it's there. So assumption natin na susulpot yan. Mayroon ng ibang projections na baka at a certain point bigla na namang mag-come back yung COVID. So we live with it. We recognize it and we prepare for it. And importante yung psychological preparation, the world of unpredictability. Wala na yung sa panahon namin na alam namin you go to office at 8 o'clock and then you leave at 5 and then you eat lunch at 12 o'clock and you have your merienda at 3. Hindi na ganon yung orderly na you adjust as you go along. And that is something that we have to instill in our students na yung the factor of unpredictability. Kaya nga siguro na magiging impatient kayo kasi magtatanong kayo. Sasabihin namin, depende sa assessment, kung anong sabihin. Depende kay COVID kung anong gagawin ni COVID. O sana talagang tuloy-tuloy na siyang aalis. Pero yung change and unpredictability, I myself have difficulty with that because I grew up in an environment where many things in our lives are ordered, orderly talaga. Pagkatapos mo ng kinder, then you go to school and then high school. And ngayon hindi na ganun eh. Hindi mo na alam kung anong sunod na mangyayari. So handain natin yung learners natin for that. Okay.
Thank you, Secretary. Yes, I think ASEC Malcolm Garma has additional responses to this question. Yes, ASEC.
Thank you, Ms. Nina. Ms. Ara, yung original timeline natin talaga is March sana, no? But because we thought of shortening the pilot study so we can already make assessment, submit our report to the President in preparation for the expansion come January. So actually dapat kagabi, we already had the meeting with the regional directors for them to give the recommendations kung sino pa yung gustong humabol, no, for the pilot. But, we had our meeting, we had our budget hearing in Senate. So ngayon palang gabi namin makukuha yung recommendations ng ating mga regional directors. But for the pilot study, Secretary, we are also prioritizing those regions na hindi pa kasama dito sa 100 public schools natin. And that includes NCR. But we'll wait for the regional director of the National Capital Region, how many or which schools will be recommended for the pilot. But the rest will be definitely will be part of the expansion program, Ms. Ara. Thank you, Ms. Nina.
At saka the latest pala, Nina, insofar as NCR is concerned, just now I was informed that the mayor of Taguig has already agreed to basta mag-qualify yung 4 na international schools nandiyan sa Taguig. Napaka concentration in one city have 4 international schools. So pumayag na ang mayor. It took, of course, he had to reflect carefully. So good news yun para sa iyo, Joyce. And that's a good thing as well, no? Pag pumapayag sila. Okay. So naghahantay na lahat.
Thank you for that update.
Sige.
Thank you for that update, Secretary. Now, other than our national media, we also have invited for questions our regional media. And we have this question from Aimee Sornito ng Panay News ng Region 6. The question is specifically for Region 6 po. Mayroon bang additional schools, both private and public, in Region 6 na i-allow na ng DepEd for face-to-face classes?
Nasa nasa recommendation lang, of course, ng regional director sa assessment natin, and of course the assessment also of the Department of Health. Right now, 3 yung report kanina ni Ramir, and it went very, very well. So we're looking forward to additional. I think lahat na region siguro are looking forward to additional schools joining the list of face-to-face pilot schools. Mukhang lahat gusto namang madagdagan. At saka kagabi nga, correct me if I'm wrong, yung those who were around during the hearing, Senator Kiko acknowledged that he was the one who suggested na to reduce the number of schools. Kasi noon we said ang natin, na bilang natin originally 1,900, that's binaba natin, and then sabi nga niya, he advised us to lower the number of pilot schools. Pero I got the impression from him, Malcolm, you correct me kung tama ang memory ko, he appeared amenable already to increasing the number of pilot schools. Tapos the president has given us the authority, the mandate to decide on our own, the two agencies, Health and Department of Education. So ito nang mangyari. I'm sure everyone is excited, but this is a question where you are balancing education and health. Kaya we are always reminding ourselves that we also need to be careful. And both education and health are not just physical issues, but these are political issues as well, and nag-i-impact din ito sa economy. So lahat-lahat yan binabalanse natin, and we realize that sooner or later we have to make a decision. And we want sooner, di ba, sinorte na natin. Kaya nga sabi natin December ang yung feedback should be sufficient kasi lumilitaw na yung what the few challenges are, na kaya naman sigurong makaka-respond tayo sa mga challenges within this year. Di na natin hintayin na tatagal pa.
Director Nina?
Yes, Asik Malcolm, please go ahead.
Okay. Just to confirm the statement of our secretary regarding the statement of Senator Kiko. Yes, ma'am, I confirmed your recollection of his statement. Actually, he even lauded us, DepEd, for really pursuing the pilot implementation. And he is already amenable to increasing that number, but he is asking for the result of our assessment for the week 1. So we will be submitting to him, ma'am, our report regarding the week 1 assessment natin. And we would like to emphasize din po, Director Nina and ma'am, and to all our media partners, na yung monitoring natin, hindi lang yan week 1. So tuloy-tuloy po, araw-araw yung monitoring natin. But we only consolidate after the end of the week. And all of these will form part of the overall report that will be submitted to the President. So we are looking at, by the end of December, we already have sufficient information, data, and this will be used to trigger our expansion program by next year. So we will be submitting that report, ma'am, to Senator Kiko. Probably within the day or at the latest tomorrow.
Yeah, not only to Senator, but the entire Senate, and of course the President himself. And we will make it public, of course. The contents of the report will also be made public in the interest of freedom of information to our various constituencies. Kasi sila ang may reach talaga na napakalawak. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Asik Malcolm and Secretary. For the next question, let's call on Mr. Arnold Flores from TED Channel ng Region 9.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon. Ma'am, during this implementation of pilot limited face-to-face classes, kung sakali mayroong estudyante nagpositive sa COVID or DepEd personnel, sino yung sasagot sa hospitalization?
Kasi naman, every effort, of course, will be undertaken. Obligasyon naman kasi talaga natin yan, whether it's a learner or an older citizen or kung sino man yan, we have the public health service to take care of them. And may mga mechanisms kasi tayo, lalo na in the case of our teachers, na matutulungan talaga, and we have done that for those who have fallen ill during the past months, no. So, kung mangyari yan sa school, obligasyon yan ng school. At saka nandiyan naman ang health. That's exactly why the Department of Health is always there para ma-minimize kasi karamihan ng mga findings usually is asymptomatic naman. At saka yung mga research studies worldwide as well as here show that children tend to be resilient and to be resistant to COVID. Hindi sila basta natatablan, but they could be carriers. Yun ang problema. And they don't, and I've always said this at the beginning last 2 years ago when the decision was made to lock down the schools. Ang sabi ko, the school is the safest place for a child to be in because you have the clinic, you have the teachers, and you have access to facilities. If a child is locked in his home, hindi naman tayo sigurado na manonotice ka agad yan. So we're doing everything to prevent this, and we have the public health service to take care also of our people, whether learners or elderly or even workers. We're taking care also of our returning workers sa government, and that's what the health service is all about. Kaya importante yung papel nila, and they're doing everything also to minimize this kind of incidents. Sana, God forbid, hindi mangyari yung fear mo, Mr. Flores, na may bata na at saka ang finding namin dito sa atin, ang ating experience, kung mayroong ilang bata na na-infect, hindi sa school, alam naman natin yan na hindi nila yun napulot sa school kasi wala pa naman tayong face-to-face noon. Kung makapulot sila sa school, babantayan kasi kaagad yung symptoms. Pag may symptoms, aaksyonan. Kaya mayroon tayong contingency plan. Bawat school has a contingency plan, and there's always close coordination with the Department of Health because we don't want such an incident to happen, because a child can catch COVID maybe on the way to school or or other reasons or other locations na hindi sa school. So right now, what is on record is that hindi naman sa school sila nakakakuha niyan. Kasi makita yan kaagad eh. But yung question mo is whether sino ang gagastos. To the extent that it is covered by health policy, talagang government will take care of its people, especially of its children.
Thank you, Secretary. RD Ruth, would you like to add to the response of Secretary?
Yes, that's why we are soliciting our media partners to help us advocate vaccination kasi that would be an added layer of protection talaga. And I think I have responded to that question previously during the press conference that we have contingency funds for in the event that there would be transmission in the school, no? And also we need strong coordination with our local government partners also in terms of health issues, no? We ensure that in the events that there would be transmission, it's upon contact tracing, it's found out that it's really in school. We ensure that there would be medical intervention would be provided for the teachers, and all those involved in the limited face-to-face. So your help for us in our advocacy would really help us in promoting a higher percentage of vaccination program. Kasi we are for full vaccination to all those who are participating. Kasi talagang that's their protection. It's our protection. For me, it could be a moral obligation for everyone to be vaccinated. Not just those in the limited face-to-face, but if there are available vaccine, make sure everyone would avail of that. So I hope everyone would feel this way, that it's actually a moral obligation to be vaccinated.
Thank you for Yes,
That was a
Secretary.
very, Nina, that was a very strong endorsement, and I totally agree with you, Ruth. Itong sabihin natin, Arnold, yung mga bata may infect, perhaps we need the cooperation of the adults. One of the feedback na napansin ko, I don't know it is prevalent, it may not be, na itong mga adults hindi sumusunod sa protocol, yung mga exits, mga entrances, mga places na hindi sila dapat pumasok. Di ba napansin niyo that there was such a feedback? Kasi nasanay tayong hindi sumusunod. And then kung yung mayroong pumapasok na hindi nagre-register, di ba lumabas kaya yun kanina. So I think we have to give an example to our the adults should be examples to the children. Kasi you will see in all the schools may mga araw yan, may dito ang entrance, dito ang exit. Ay nasanay tayo na we enter wherever we please. We walk wherever we please. Tayong mga adults. Sanay tayo na talagang there are those who have the habit of not obeying, and then the children suffer. So this is also a plea to the adults who visit our schools for whatever reason to follow the usual protocol ng entrance, exits, kung saan dadaan, kung there are places which you should not go to, and all that. Ang klaro-klaro ng mga since these are for children, the instructions are very clear di ba? Bawal dito, punta diyan, etc. Tayo lahat kailan magtulungan. We don't want our children to be infected. Then we behave. We adults behave. Because as I was saying, the children don't invent the virus themselves. They get it in all sorts of places. So, ayun lang ang ating plea. We set ourselves as example in following health protocols inside the schools so that we don't expose our children to harm and to danger. And also on the matter of vaccination, and we have said it time and again that vaccination as a rule is voluntary and it is not mandatory, but the moral obligation is there, and we have conducted legal studies on this matter. Maski sabihin mong hindi natin mapipilit yung vaccination, pero mayroon tayong duty to protect especially the innocent. Kung makikita nila yung adults kung saan-saan dumadaan, kung saan-saan lumalabas, na hindi sumusunod yung mga arrows, you will notice na may mga arrow na saan ka dadaan, yung mga bata di susunod din. So ayun lang. But it's a duty of the state to take care of these people. That's why we have a health service. Mabuti tinanong mo yan, Arnold, kasi tinatanong din yun ng iba Sino daw ang gagastos, etc.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Maraming salamat, Sir Arnold. Sir Arnold Flores. And thank you for that response, Secretary, for encouraging everyone to really strictly follow our safety and health protocols. And also, we'd like to say thank you to RD Ruth for contextualizing, because that question actually came from your region. Marami pong salamat. For the next question, let's call on Ms. Catherine Cruz of Manila Times.
Hi, good afternoon po. So just to clarify po, may mga report po kasi tayo coming from the regions na meron po mga bata na hindi nakapasok ng eskwelahan because they were sick, possible na due to fever, cough, or colds. Question ko lang po is, tinest po ba natin yung mga batang ito? Since sabi po natin before, hindi po natin sila isa-subject to regular testing, but if may symptoms po sila, meron po tayong mga procedure na gagawin?
Usually, yung gano'n, yung may mga sipon, of course, excused ka agad yan. Whether you have pilot school or a regular school, pag may mga gano'n kasi, ang mga colds, mga coughs, it's highly contagious, di ba? Oo. So, ayaw naman natin makalat yung mga viruses na yan of whatever variety. So, the students are excused kung mayroon silang mga symptoms. At saka yung sinasabi ko na may mga combination of symptoms yan which health professionals are better able to assess. Oo, it's not only the cough or the cold, but also yung mga sore throat, mga LBM, mga ganyan, di ba? Oo. So, a health professional can make the assessment. Dahil ayaw naman nating iswab yung mga bata ako personally, I would not agree to that because we might trigger accidents. Sinabi ko na yan, tutusukin mo yung sisipain ka ng bata o sisigaw, wala na. We will create more trauma for the child and also trigger accidents. So sa symptoms ng combination, a professional can judge that. Ako, I would not be able to because symptoms are similar. But a professional would be able to do that because it's a combination of. Tapos sa contact tracing mo makikita yan. Kung halimbawa yung isang household, the father is positive for COVID, tapos yung bata may sipon, may ubo, then kailangan i-check yan. So yung diagnostic capacity, wala kami niyan. We are lang kami, we can only report the symptoms, but it's the health professional who determines it. So, yun.
Thank you, Secretary. ASIC Malcolm would like to make additional inputs po.
Yes, Director Nina, just to add on what the Secretary has already mentioned, hindi automatic yung testing among our learners. Doon sa ating guideline, ang pinaka-importanting role ng DepEd dito would be the spotting or the determination of the symptoms. Pero in this case, hindi na sila pumasok sa school. So ibig sabihin sa bahay pa lang ay hindi na sila pinapasok ng magulang. But the next step that DepEd must do in this case is the referral system. Automatic dapat yung mga batang hindi pumasok because of these reasons must be referred to the local health units, or the LGU. At ang next step doon will be assessment. Kailangan i-assess bakit sinisipon o inuubo yung bata. At matitrigger lang yung testing kung doon sa household ng bata may exposure. So that's the only time. So hindi automatic yung testing dito. Pag nagkaroon naman ng symptoms sa loob ng classroom, automatic yung, that's why in our schools, dun sa mga nakita ninyong video, meron talaga silang nilaang mga rooms para sa parang isolation rooms, para pagka doon na-detect yung symptoms sa loob ng classroom, ihiwalay kaagad yung learner natin. And then back to the procedure, which is what? Referral, assessment, and then contact tracing and testing if possible. So yun po ma'am yung ating nakasaad dun sa guidelines natin. So again, it's not automatic na may ubo, may sipon, ay itetest kagad yung learners or teachers natin. Thank you.
Follow-up lang po, Yusek, ASIC Norma. Dito po sa mga 18 na nagsabi po na meron silang mga symptoms, na-assess na po, na-refer na po ba natin sila sa LGUs at na-assess na po sila?
Balikan ko lang yung data kasi hindi ko matandaan kung naka-indicate doon kung may 18 years old yung mga nag-manifest ng symptoms. But definitely, if they have manifested the symptoms, then automatic naman yon in the school level. And part of the objective of the monitoring system, yung monitoring and assessment natin, is really to make sure that the schools are doing their role, insofar as the safety protocols are concerned. So we will check on that kung meron talagang 18 years old na mga nag-manifest ng symptoms. Thank you.
Isa ding Director Nila, isa ding clue is also kaya importante yung contact tracing. Yung sa bahay mismo, kung so, minsan sa isang buong pamilya, and we have cases na buong pamilya lahat magka-COVID yan. So nag-isolate sila, isang kakilala ko. Sila lahat, they had to be staying in separate rooms, pati mother, father, to dalawang anak. Oh, so that's a very strong hint already that there is something wrong. So importante kasi yung as I said, yung contact tracing at saka kung ano ang sitwasyon sa pamilya. Kaya itong bagay na ito, ang papel ng adults to protect our children is not only reposed on DepEd or the Department of Health, it's also on the families and on the communities themselves na hindi ma-expose yung bata kasi ang bata resistant siya, ba't baka maipasa naman sa iba? Oo, kasi yun ang general observation sa mga bata natin, no? Pero as yung below below 12, hindi pa rin I'm not aware, again I stand to be corrected, na pumapayag ang health authorities na yung mga young children should be swabbed or tested because I already explained why. Oo. And baka kami pa ang gagarahe ng mga parents kung gagalawin namin yung ilong ng anak nila. Sige. Lalo na ang lola, Katrina. Gagalit ang lola.
Thank you po. For
susungkitin yung ilong ng baby, naka.
For Director Andayan naman po, 20 po kasi yung approve natin for private schools, ma'am. Ask ko lang po sana if possible po na madagdagan itong 18 schools natin para maging 20 sila, or sila na po ba muna ang magsistay for pilot phase and then the remaining will be for the expanded phase na po?
As of today nga, 18 sila. Pero kung may hahabol pa within the week, baka pwede pa nating entertainin, ma'am, yung dalawa natin na para makumpleto natin ang 20. Pero yun ay para sa ngayong week na lang muna. The rest, expansion phase na yun.
Okay, thank you po. Sorry, one last na lang po, quick clarification lang po. Yung dalawang public schools po last week na nag-defer ng kanilang first day of classes, sa public schools naman po ito, nakapagsimula na po ba sila? Natuloy po ba yung pagsisimula nila last Wednesday? Thank you po.
Ay, dalawa. Yes, diba? The ones in Zambales ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Humabol na sila the next day kasi nagpa-test ka agad. And we suggested na yung results have to be made available as soon as possible. Yung RC-PCR. Yes. Complete na ang 100 schools sa public.
Thank you very much po.
Thank you very much for those questions, Ms. Catherine Cruz. And now to proceed, our next question is coming from 1PH. Galing po ito kay Yeda Pascual. At I will be reading the question. The question is, napag-usapan na rin ba ni DepEd ang pagbabalik klase ng SPED students?
Okay, ulit na.
Yes, the question, Secretary, is napag-usapan na ba ang pagbabalik ng klase ng mga SPED students? Yung special education natin, Secretary.
Well, kung halimbawa, I know, I will not mention the school. Among the schools which have been approved, mayroon na recently isa ay SPED ang orientation. It's for children with special needs. So I believe that we should not deprive special children of this opportunity for face-to-face. As a matter of fact, they need it. They need face-to-face sessions with their teachers, and I have seen these SPED classes. So we should not kung ma-sped siya o ma-regular, etc. As long as masunod lang yung standards, papayag si mayor, papayag ang parents, tapos yung facilities natin are sufficient, at saka nakapasa risk assessment, then that's fine with us. Kasi kailangan sa SPED ang face-to-face din sa kanilang mga activities. Yung isang na-approve, yung recent na approvals may SPED doon eh.
Thank you for clarifying, Secretary. And for the
Director
next...
Nina,
yes,
Director
Asek.
Nina, just to add lang, no, para lang just to set the guidelines, no, insofar as the SPED classes are concerned, we did not make any distinction, no, kung SPED classes siya or regular class. We just classify all the schools in accordance to what has been stated in the joint memorandum circular. But kung merong SPED class doon sa particular school na yon at gusto nilang i-participate yon, pwede naman yon. And I think that's in fact, ma'am, in Region 8, ayan, nakaabang na si RD Evelyn, meron po tayong isang SPED class na isama natin dito sa 100 public schools natin. But generally kasi doon sa ating mga SPED schools kasi most of them are in the private schools, no? So that's one thing that we will look into pag tinignan natin o dinigest natin yung profile ng mga private school. But probably, Director Nina, we can their experience doon sa SPED class that they included in the pilot class.
Thank you, Asek Malcolm. Yes, RD Evelyn.
Yes, thank you, Director Nina, and also Asek Malcolm. Good afternoon po, Ma'am Liling, and also to our media partner. Well, in Region 8, we have Paluan Central Elementary School na nag-pilot run ng SPED class on autism. There are 2 learners in that class, and the parents, because there are 2 learners, have been so happy with the return of the face-to-face classes. And even our learners there, masaya po sila, kahit autistic sila, pero makikita natin na they enjoy the interaction ng kanilang guro. At ang mayor nga ng Paluan Central School ng Palu Leyte is the Honorable Mayor Ann Petilia, was there during the CO monitoring visit, and she expressed talaga na dapat daw ang lahat na lang ng mga klase in that school ay papayagan. Sabi naman natin na because there was already a go signal, Ma'am Liling, from the President that it will only be up to the level of the Secretary to approve the expansion of our classes, na posible po yun. Kasi nakita natin na very successful naman at highly engaging yung nangyari na pilot run ng SPED class natin sa autism. So ang gusto ng Mayor, Ma'am, lahat na lang po ng klase doon sa school and even with other schools in her area.
May isa din, Nina, may isa ding local government ng Metro Manila, this is Valenzuela. Wala pa itong pilot natin, ay nag-request na talagang at the time na nag-blended learning tayo, nag-request talaga sila because they have SPED classes, na for the SPED classes, payagan ang face-to-face. And it reached the level of your Undersecretary Joyce, that particular issue, no? Kasi gustong-gusto talaga nila na kung SPED, kailangan mas kailangan ang face-to-face kaysa other students, no? Lalo na kung isang buong klase may special needs. So this is a running issue, and we have never discriminated for or against any type of student, wherever he or she comes from.
Maraming salamat for those responses, Secretary Asek Malcolm and RD Evelyn. For our next question naman po, this is going to come from Aksyon ko online, coming from one of our regional partners, Region 5 po yan. Andito po si Mr. Christopher Briones. May we call on Christopher Briones ng Aksyon ko online from Region 5.
Hello po. Wait lang. Naririnig po ba?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wait lang. Hello. First of all, hello po kay DepEd Secretary Ma'am Briones.
Hello.
Briones din po ako. Pakita ko yung video. Ay, ang mukha ko para ano. Ayun. Look alike po, ma'am. Anyway, hindi ko po alam kung naantabayanan ko yung ano, yung kasi baka nasagot na yung tanong ko with regard po dun sa kung sakaling may mag-positive or ano po ba yung magiging proseso agad-agad kapag through the course ng limited face-to-face, may mag-positive, ano po ba, ihihinto po ba agad-agad yung klase or may iba pang pagdadaanan?
Lahat na schools mayroong contingency plan. Requirement yan, contingency. And yung mention mo ay isa yan sa mga contingencies. So kailangan mayroong step by step na dapat gawin ng school kung mayroong ganong pangyayari. Tinanong na yan kanina ni Arnold Flores na anong mangyari kung may bata na halimbawa, God forbid, may infect siya. O yung sabi namin, kailangan alerto palagi ang teacher, bantayan yung symptoms ng mga bata kasi yung below 12 to 17, ayaw naman nating i-swab sila o i-examine, ayaw natin sundutin yung ilong nila. So, tingnan yung mga symptoms. At saka kailangan mag-coordinate ka agad sa health natin kasi requirement din natin yan na every so often titingnan yung mga schools na yan ng ating health authorities. At saka may protocol yan na kung kailan bang i-confine. Tapos immediate separation ng child from the rest of the class. Kaya yung mga schools natin required na mayroon silang little rooms na doon mag-rest ang bata samantalang i-examinin, etc. etc. So may protocol yan. At saka yung immediate assistance kasi gusto natin na makontrol ka agad yung symptoms. So naka-spell out yan lahat. Kung God forbid, and I hope it will not happen, with all the precautions that we are taking, na sana hindi mangyayari. But I would like to emphasize again, Christopher, that a child can pick up a virus, not necessarily in school. Sinabi ko na yun last 2 years ago pa, na the school is a very safe place for a child to be in as long as he stays in school because you have the teachers noticing them and you have the principal and so on. Maka-action sila kaagad. Oo. But they can pick up the virus elsewhere sa transport, sa pagkain. Kung hindi uuwi kaagad yung bata, supposedly after face-to-face, uuwi sila. Hindi uuwi kung may pupuntahan. O mismo sa household. Kaya yun ang aming pakiusap sa mga parents. See to it that also their households are also safe. Kasi marami mga bata asymptomatic Mayroon akong alam na yung isang buong pamilya, talagang na-infect sila ng COVID and then one of them passed away, etc. Lahat, maliban sa mga bata na laro pa rin ang laro. Pero they were already carrying also the virus. So magiging agent yung bata without even being aware of it. Kaya yun ang pag-iingatan natin. So I hope that answers your question. Una, mayroon tayong contingency plans. At saka the teachers are guided on what they're supposed to do. And this is why it is important also na yung ating partnership with the Department of Health has to be very strong. Kailangan magkakaalaman and we cooperate all the time. Yun ang sitwasyon ngayon.
Okay po. Last question na lang po. With regard po doon kasi napansin ko yung isa sa mga kakulangan po sa mga schools talaga, yung mga like school supplies, medical supplies, nakita ko sa mga challenges. So how are we gonna address? Kasi madami po ang gustong magbigay ng tulong ngayon, madami ang gustong magpaabot. Ano po ba yung mga dapat na nilang gawin na ano yung mga proseso na dapat pagdaanan ng mga magbibigay ng tulong para at least kasi baka may mag-positive or baka may simptomas na dala. Ano po yung magiging how are we gonna address this kind of situation po?
Una, at the level of government, na-announce na natin yan na bawat school, halimbawa yung kasali sa pilot, binigyan natin ng additional 100,000 sa mga extra needs nila, whatever they are. At saka yung supplies, pwedeng ma-charge sa MOE, which is the regular budget that schools usually receive for medical supplies and other things. Kanina kinento kasi ni Evelyn kung anong ginawa nila sa grant na 100,000 for the 10 schools na sa kanyang region. So may dagdag tayo because we know that they have to prepare the schools themselves. That is on the part of the public. Second, how about the private sector? There are many ways because usually parents teachers associations are very active. Ang Parent Teachers Association, nandyan ang LGU, nandyan yung teachers, nandyan din yung parents. So pwedeng doon nila idaan yung donations nila. Pero kung big time talaga na big businesses, etc., who want to make big time donations, usually sa central office, then we have the external partnership service na headed by Undersecretary at Tony O'Malley na umaano yung tumatanggap ng mga donations, halimbawa bultong-bultong gloves, bultong-bultong alcohol and mga whatever supplies are needed. So you can donate directly to the school, perhaps through the PTA. The thing lang is it has to be accounted for. Itong mga bagay na ito na of course we make sure na yung mga donations na yan talaga dumadating sa school. No? There is accountability, there is reportage, tapos ng value. Sa external partnership service, ginagawa ito at the end of the year, sabihin we collected this much. Pero sa PTA, maraming paraan. At saka may mga parents themselves diretso sa klase dahil siyempre thereafter also the safety of their child. So maraming paraan either diretso sa central office through the region. Eventually, it should land in the classroom. Yun ang importante and not elsewhere. Oo. Doon sa klase na kung saan nandoon yung pilot. Oo.
Okay. Okay na po ako. Thank you so much po, Secretary. Hope to see you in person po.
Yeah.
Ma'am Liling.
Yes.
Hello po, Director Ninia. I-share ko rin yung ginawa ng City Savings Bank. Kasi yung City Savings Bank came to my office and told me na meron silang 250,000 as CSR, 250,000 pesos as their corporate social responsibility na share ng region daw. Tapos sabi niya, ma'am, ano pong suggestion ninyo para sa money? Sabi ko, well, ibigay natin yan sa ating 10 mga paaralan na mag-pilot ng face-to-face classes. Kaya yun ang nangyari, ma'am. 25,000 per school.
Yes.
Binili yun ng mga supplies and materials, alcohol, thermal scanner, face masks, and others po, ma'am. Every school po yan, ma'am. Hinatid nila talaga, ma'am, ng City Savings Bank. And we were there during the turnover and all the stakeholders of the school
were there also. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Salamat.
Thank you for those inputs, RD Evelyn. Thank you, Secretary, for your response. To proceed, we'll have the next round of questions from from region, or wait, let me check if Sir Noel Talakay of Malaya Business Insight is with us in this call and if he has questions. Sir Noel Talakay ng Malaya Business Insight. If wala po sa Zoom call, we can proceed with the next question. Okay. Or do we have any other media partners that would like to ask questions to our secretary and our executive and MANCOM officials? Secretary, hearing none, siguro we can wrap up our press conference for this afternoon. Would you have a closing message?
Wala na. I have said all my messages already. So, maraming salamat lang sa lahat. And I appreciate your candor. I appreciate your frankness. And I hope we have not overwhelmed you with too much data and too much information. But we plead with you to share the information that we have also shared with you to the public, because you have a very much wider reach than we could possibly achieve. So salamat sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much, Secretary. And we'd also like to say thank you to all our executive officials and our MANCOM officials who have joined us this afternoon. And thank you as well to everyone who has been tuned in via DepEd Philippines Facebook page. Thank you for joining us for the press conference, and also our friends from the media and press who have joined us in the discussion. Ang unti-unti nga pong pagbubukas muli ng mga eskwelahan ay patunay lang na nagkakaisa po ang buong Pilipinas upang itaguyod ang edukasyon sa gitna po ng COVID-19 pandemic. Tunay ngang buhay na buhay ang bayanihan para sa edukasyon para sa ating mga kabataan. Dito po nagwawakas ang ating press conference. Maraming salamat sa lahat muli ng mga media partners. At muli din po, papasalamatan natin ang mga katuwang natin sa paghahatid ng balita sa iba't ibang panig po ng bansa. Andyan ang CLTV 36, DWRB 103.9 News FM, Romblon Cable, Kabangkalan Community Antenna TV, Siargao TV, The Post, and Rappler. Ako po muli si Nina Bianca Sanglay mula sa Office of the Secretary. Sa ngalan po ng tuloy-tuloy na paghubog sa mga kabataan, tayo'y magkaisa upang mas mapalakas pa ang aksyon at solusyon para sa edukasyon, para po sa bata at para sa bayan. Ito ang EduAKSYON, aksyon at solusyon para sa edukasyon, the DepEd Virtual Press Conference. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.